Welcome to the Mythical Astronomy Starry Wisdom Sunday extravaganza. Sorry, it was one word short there. Welcome. We are here to talk about a very interesting topic, the creation of the others. Something which it's a bush we've been beating around, I'll say that. Yes, this is my other themed outfit here. Got not blue stars, but white stars on blue. Close enough. Yes. So we're going to be building, just to tell you guys watching now and watching after the fact, we're going to be building on two videos very heavily. One is Origin of the Others, Knight's Queen, and the other is Weirwalkers. I will summarize some of the basic ideas in those videos, but if you haven't watched those videos, it's going to sound like I'm kind of leaping to conclusions in order to build more conclusions off of, which is always bad to do. So if the conclusions are faulty. The Weirwalkers video in particular, I feel like it's one of my most convincing videos. It's not even really my theory, the idea that the White Walkers come from the Weirwoods. It's an old idea. It was around on the Westeros forums when I got there in 2014. It's an obvious idea. You know, I've obviously quoted Quinn's Ideas video about the secret origin of the White Walkers when he talks about the she and all that stuff. But it's an obvious idea. The mystery is how. You know, the TV show gave us a version of the White Walkers being created by the Children of the Forest, and Night King was tied to a weirwood tree, like my fake weirwood. He was tied to the weirwood and he was stabbed with dragonglass. It's not going to be exactly like that, but the fact that they did use a significant magical weirwood tree, which later became the frozen tree that seems maybe like the heart of winter or something like that. It shows you that they're loosely, even the show producers picked up on the idea that the White Walkers come from the Children of the Weirwoods, or maybe George gave them the general drift on that. So there's two sides of other creation. There's the Weirwood side, which has something to do with exiled green seer spirits, the green seer magic of the Children of the Forest. Those green seer spirits could be Children of the Forest ghosts, or they could be green man ghosts. I tend to think about them as green men, but we don't really even know what the real difference is or relation between green men and Children of the Forest. They're elf creatures. The green men seem to be implied as taller, more Cernunnos-like, but it's a similar idea. These are elf humanoids. So either Children of the Forest or green seer spirits that are inside the Weirwoods, they get burned out by Azor Ahai. I've talked about this many times. Azor Ahai invades the Weirwood net, just like Waymar in the prologue of Game of Thrones, invading the woods. This calls out the others. Basically, the others they were green seer spirits in retirement. They were happily resting up in their tree home. They got exiled, and somehow they became the others. But then we also have this Knights, King, and Queen side of things, the Craster and Gilly, the idea that you have to give babies to the others, and they use these babies somehow to make more others or something. We don't know if the babies get frozen and then they grow up slowly and they're in White Walker daycare and White Walker summer camp and all the rest until they come of age, or more likely we're looking at something more like a baby sacrifice, where the babies given to the White Walkers are probably killed using magic, and their magical mana is harvested somehow. The big clue, of course, is about this comes from the chapter at Craster's Keep where Mormont is mutinied, sadly. Lord Commander Mormont, rest in peace. We're going to read some of that chapter today. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a taste of the chapter read-alongs that we've been doing. I didn't want to just read the whole chapter because half of it is the mutiny, and it doesn't really have, the other symbolism has to do with the death of Bannon and the birth of Monster. So we're going to read that part. And if you haven't been joining us for our chapter read-alongs, you're missing out. This is some of the best use of my 7 years of spending too much time on A Song of Ice and Fire that I've come up with, reading through the chapter line by line. You can see how Martin builds an idea and ties ideas together. So check out there's a playlist on the front page of my YouTube channel and also on the playlist tab called A Song of Ice and Fire Hall of Fame read-alongs. And that's what I'm talking about. They're chapter read-throughs. And it's good stuff. So we're going to give you a little taste of that today. We're going to read part of the Craster's Keep chapter. And that's the big one. But again, the big clue is at the end of the chapter. Gilly's older sisters, one might be her mother. You know how it is with Craster's women. Two of the older of Craster's women tell Sam, while they're telling him to take Gilly and run with Baby Monster, they're telling him, you know, the White Walkers will be here soon, but they refer to them as Craster's sons and the boys' brothers. So they see the White Walkers as these male children of Craster's that have been given to the Walkers. Now, of course, Craster's wives aren't experts on the magical White Walker transformation process, but they know enough. So I think we can count that as reputable, that somehow there is some essence of those children that goes into the White Walkers. So people have been asking me in the comments for a long time, how do we marry these two ideas, that the White Walkers come from the Weirwood trees, but they have something to do with sacrificed children. Of course, originally we have knights, king and queen, giving their children to the others, which is really just a euphemism for making White Walkers. How do these two things come together? So that's what we're going to try to do today, is to wed those two ideas. It's been in the back of my mind for a long time. I can't say that I have a perfect answer. What this is going to be is a little bit of a workshop. I'm going to show you the best evidence where Martin is trying to show us this process, and I will tell you what I think of it, and you guys can pipe in and tell me what you think of it, and we'll see if we can't suss it out, or at least I can bring you guys closer to the mystery. It may be that we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle yet, and that all we can do is get up. Sorry, I'm just got a little bit of a itchy nose this morning. All we can do is walk up to a certain point, walk up to a certain point and say, you know, it's something along these lines. But it's going to be a fun live stream, and we're going to, like I said, we're going to be one of those ones where we tie together multiple theories and try to make it coherent. We can also discuss the more character-based motivation of original Knights, King, and Queen and the White Walkers. You know, was Knights Queen tricking Knights King and turning the tables on him? Is Knights Queen a Children of the Forest woman making White Walkers to get back at the humans, more like the show idea where the children create the White Walkers to repel the attacks of the first men? I've got several scenarios that I think could be plausible, so we can discuss those as well, because of course it's not just about magic, it's also about the character dramas and the hearts in conflict and all that. So welcome to Starry Wisdom Sunday. And if you'd like to support the program, which I would appreciate, if you like what I'm doing here, if you want to keep me going and all that stuff, paypal.me mythical astronomy, that's the best way to support. You can also send a PayPal super chat donation within YouTube. And you may have noticed that there's now a join button next to the red subscribe button. So it's Starry Wisdom announcement time. When you cross 30K subs, you get to do something called memberships. And that's what the join button does. You can, for $5 a month, kind of like Patreon, it's like YouTube's Patreon thing. $5 a month, you can get a couple extra perks here on the live streams. You get access to these special emojis that I have made, which I will reveal after we get a couple people to join, and then we can show you the membership, the emojis. I made them custom. And then as you stay here longer, you get a little icon next to your badge that progresses through ranks of squisher icons that I also created. And the main thing it does is it also, your name in the comments appears a little bit different than everybody else, kind of like the mods have the hammer or whatever. So your comments stand out a little more. I will give priority to answering those comments when I can. Also, same thing for comments on the YouTube video. I will see those first. And okay, so we've got some members popping in. We got the old, see all the cool kids. You're gonna see, you're gonna want to do this. All the cool kids are doing it. So we got Gabe the Griffin, Minty Jane, thank you, Minty, and Downtown Clowny Brown. So guys, you guys know how to enter the emojis. You type a colon and then a word and then another colon with no spaces. So try typing in colon Beavis colon. All right, I got one that's Beavis. We've got LML. We've got GRRM. And there's one more. What was the other one? Let's see. There should be a join button, Octagon, if you look down below. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Vax. And yeah, so let's see. Where does... So yeah, so now you get a green. Oh, your name turns green. That's cool. When do we get access to the OnlyFans? No. Let's see. Are the emoji? How do we get the emojis working? Yeah, there's a Bernie one too. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so something the emojis don't either. Maybe I'm not doing it right. How does this work? Sorry, I just turned this on last night. There should be a Bernie emoji as well. Is anybody okay? So if anybody knows how to how this works, let's see. We will figure this out. I don't want to get too much dead air time going, but it'll come up if you just click the emoji tab. Will it? And I apologize those of you watching back, and this is dead air time. Sorry. No, it doesn't seem to be working. Okay, guys. Well, I apologize about that. I will figure out how it works. I did upload the emojis, and they should be yeah, no, it's not working. We'll figure it out though. We'll figure it out. Thank you all for joining, supporting the program again. Very much appreciate it. And we will figure out how to do that. Oh, it's working. Okay, so I'm sorry, guys. It is working. I'm in the StreamYard. It's not working. I'm looking at the... Sorry, I broadcast through the StreamYard software. It does not appear in the StreamYard software. It is appearing in the YouTube chat. Great. So you've got Beavis, which we can do for fire appreciation. We've got George's head and my head attached to a comet. And we've got Bernie and the Crips. So there we go. Okay, cool. Sorry about being confused. But at least it's working. So :_ Oh, is that okay? All right. Well, very good. So everyone's having fun. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. There we go. And also once a month, I think you can send a super chat like comment for free. Yeah. So it's called becoming a squisher because the icons are going to progress through different squishers. I'm not sure how to do the badges. So they should display. Okay, those are in the YouTube chat too. Yeah. So everybody has the one squisher icon. After a month, the squisher icons will change. They will cycle through different squishers that will indicate your seniority. You can progress all the way to Squid Face, Euron, and then finally Cthulhu. So we'll watch that over time. But let's get to the matter at hand. Creation of the others. Sorry, I do have to keep the channel going. I know it's not as fun, but I do talk about symbolism for like 2 hours straight. So you have to spare me the brief bit of house maintenance. All right, so let's begin with just a little bit of quick summary of the crap that I just said, so it doesn't sound like I'm projecting tinfoil onto the great story that is A Song of Ice and Fire, because that would be a shame. It's a great story. There's no need to read secret conspiracies into the books. I'm not a fan of that. I feel like all my stuff is firmly well grounded in the author's intent, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So Weirwalker's video, we're talking about how the Green Seers come from the woods. There's a lot of good symbolic wordplay clues. The others in the White Walkers are essentially described almost exactly the same. Bone white bark for the Weirwoods. The White Walkers have bone white hands. The White Walkers glow with moonlight. The Black Gate Weirwood face glows with milk and moonlight. The big one is White Shadow. The others are called White Shadows and Pale Shadows all the time. And then we've got there's a couple of key scenes where frozen Weirwoods appear as pale shadows, notably in the Varamir prologue. Shout out to Nefertaria Briggs and Some Guy. Thanks, Some Guy. And let me make sure I go back here. Eric. Vague. Thanks, Eric. And M-Box. It's always good to have an M-Box. Sentient M-Box. I'm going to assume that's what that is. Because entropy, thank you. The Mighty Monarch. Ian Conway. Vax. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. So, I love that it's green, too. Octagon, send me a naked. Now, there's... I have to talk about symbolism, guys. I try to look snappy, but, you know... I'm not going to pan the camera down and show you that I'm not wearing pants. That's that's not a thing. I am wearing pants. My box. Okay, there we go. My box. So how do you become a member? There should be a join button next to the subscribe button, right on the video there. And if it's not there, just pull up a regular video and it should be there. So George Martin. Okay. We've got the similar comparisons of the White Walkers and especially the frozen weirwood trees. We've got, let's see here. I just watched both of my videos this morning. I'm trying to figure out where to start. George calls the White Walkers kind of like icy Sidhe. The Sidhe, of course, from Irish mythology are the people of the mounds. They're basically spirits from the other world. They are associated with mounds and sacred woods, and they are known for turning vengeful when you trespass on their sacred lands. They also steal babies. That's a big one, and that's a big part of fairy folklore, in fact, stealing babies. So the Sidhe is an interesting place because it ties to both the idea that the White Walkers are elven and thus tied to sacred woods, but it also gives us the baby stealing part. And like I said, those are the two halves. So let's see how much. Yeah, I don't think I want to. I was thinking about trying to summarize a lot of the granular symbolism from Weirwalkers, but suffice it to say, you need to watch that video. I don't want to do that. It's going to be kind of rambling if I do that. Like, there's a guy named Harwood Fell. Harwood, like hardwood. His sigil is a tree. He falls through the icy lake and gets frostbite. They pull him out. He's got pale skin and blue lips now. So he looks like a White Walker. He's dead, obviously. But he's a tree person that fell into the icy lake. The icy lake is a hugely important symbol, and that's the thing I need to talk about. The icy lake is a medium of transformation, and that's kind of what we're talking about with this entire thing about creating White Walkers. So we're actually talking about transformation. Thank you, Brooke, becoming a member. You know, we're going to tie into the Fire Others video that I just put out. And that's all about Melisandre simply transforming through the use of fire magic into a being that runs on fire. I called it a Fire Other, but basically it's just an entity that is, like I said, transformed through the medium of fire to become a fire-based entity, just as the White Walkers are ice-based entities. The Weirwoods are a medium of transformation. The Weirwood trees, we should see them as things that people and children of the forest go into, and then other creatures come out of. And there's usually a transformation that happens in the middle of the tree. I love that I have my tree behind me. This is a very helpful visual aid. Things go into the tree, they transform, they come out of the tree. It's paralleled with all the mythical astronomy symbolism. The comet goes into the moon, transforms, and all these little baby comets come out, the meteor shower. One big dragon goes into the moon or marries the moon, couples with the moon, impregnates the moon, and then we get little mini versions of both the moon and the dragon, right? They are pieces of moon, but they are flaming meteors, so they look like the comet. They're pieces of moon. It's just like a child is both mommy and daddy, right? But we could also see that as a transformation. The big comet goes into the moon and comes out reborn as these little dragon comets, right? So the moon and the Weirwoods are parallel. That's why the Weirwoods always are compared to the moon. We're going to talk about the moon door and the Eyrie. The Black Gate glows with moonlight. The Weirwood moon faces at the House of Black and White. So the moon in the sky is basically the medium of transformation, and the Weirwood is that on the ground. So we're going to have White Walkers coming out of the Weirwoods. We've got Azor High going into the Weirwoods. The dead Greenseers and Children of the Forest obviously go into the Weirwoods and then potentially get reborn out as White Walkers. Jon Snow just died. Where is his spirit going? Into Ghost, his wolf, which looks exactly like a Weirwood and is compared to a Weirwood over and over again. And then he's going to be reborn from his Weirwood colored wolf and become some new transformed entity. So there you go. When Dany walks into the pyre, that's a simulation of the moon destruction, but it's also a pile of burning wood. So it's also a person walking into a burning tree and walking out transformed. So it's, again, the same idea. And we are going to, obviously, the birth of the dragons and the birth of the others is comparable. We see Dany's child essentially gets sacrificed to birth the dragons, just as the Night's King and Craster babies are sacrificed to birth the others somehow. We don't know exactly how, but somehow. So the idea of sacrificing children or babies to gain magical power, that is an old fairy idea as well, an old fae idea, you want to say Celtic, European folklore idea, Germanic folklore. It's an old one. And it's all over A Song of Ice and Fire. All over the place. Like, not only the others are given children, obviously Dany sacrifices her baby, not intentionally, but it sort of worked out that way magically. And then the Squishers even steal babies. So it's all over the place. And then we got a Euron impregnating Felia Flowers and then getting ready to use her as a blood sacrifice to power a magic ritual. So over and over and over, we have this idea that you can sacrifice children as basically, it's like the pinnacle of blood magic. Blood magic is the idea of killing somebody, harvesting their magical mana from their life force and using it to power magic. We know that that is the most powerful kind of magic, and we know that it's done all over the place in A Song of Ice and Fire. We see Weirwood blood magic and fire, blood magic with the Valerians sacrificing either children or people to make their Valyrian steel. And we potentially see it with the others as well. Let's see. I got a super chat from Arturo. In 2003 in Warcraft game, there's the hero that becomes the Lich King with an undead ice dragon. Did George discuss the ending before? I don't know that he has any connection to Warcraft games. Some of these are just tropes that people come across, like the idea of a Lich King or a White King. I mean, that's a very old idea. And certainly the others have Nazgul vibes. That's definitely something that George is playing with. That scene on Weathertop is really like hugely influential. If you look at the description of the Nazgul there, they're described as shadows. They sound exactly like the others as Frodo sees them in the dream realm. They're black shadows in the daylight, but when he puts on the ring, he sees them basically as white shadows. He sees their former kingly form, and the language is very evocative of the others. So we can see this is one of the places where George got that from. And that's borrowing on that same trope of a Lich King, Witch King kind of thing. I got a couple of PayPals coming in. One from some guy who just joined as a member. Thank you. I think there's a parallel between Craster's babies and what the Lord Church does when it picks up child slaves and makes them priests. Sure. That's a good point. To the extent that fire others, I want to emphasize, I don't think Mel is a fire other yet. I think she's turning into one. She's not there yet, but she's close, I would say. But if Mel's turning into a fire other, probably other red priests have done that too. So we have the red children, the red temple buying children, slave children. That's pretty similar to male children being given to the others. Absolutely. It is very similar. And it enhances the parallel between fire others and ice others. Very nice. Supporting my theory. I like that. Oh, thank you, Dude Z. A new member. All right, so we've got memberships flying off the shelves. Thank you. Daniel Sawyer with a thank you. PayPal, no question. A nice one from Jelena. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. And I got a couple earlier this week as well that I must thank and honor. I think one of them might have had a question. Carcosa. Yeah, let's see. Raising the question of Valerian steel being seemingly designed to kill the others, but not having been around. Valeria wasn't around when the others, Valerian steel comes after the others. So what's the connection there? Well, I think that Valerian steel is basically a technology that they got from the Great Empire of the Dawn, judging by the swords of pale fire that Dany sees the gemstone emperors with. And it seems likely that the sword Dawn of House Dane comes from the Great Empire as well. Excuse me. Red Bull burp. Sorry. Ugh, gross. Sorry. Apologies. Dawn comes from the Great Empire of the Dawn, or the technology to build it comes from the Great Empire of the Dawn. And so Dawn is exactly like Valerian steel, right? So what does that leave us with? That leaves us with the idea that actually Dawn predates Valerian steel, probably, and was the predecessor for it. And also, the story of Azor Ahai describes blood magic being used to create a magic sword, right? Azor Ahai tempers the sword in Nissa Nissa's heart, and then creates Lightbringer. And it kind of seems like the Valerians might be copying that myth to try to create Valerian steel if they're sacrificing people, slaves, children to make Valerian steel. So then you got the Valerians using a fallen form or a corrupted form of the Great Empire of the Dawn technology. Now, the Great Empire of the Dawn was around at the time of the Long Night and was intimately connected with the Long Night. So not sure if Dawn was created to kill the White Walkers or if it's just something that, it's fire magic and so it works that way. But that would be the connection if you want a level of intention there. Thank you, Kevin, with the super chat. Working hard over here, Kevin. Always trying to be entertaining. You know me. And I'm having fun with the Melisandre series. You guys are liking that. So I appreciate the comments and the enthusiasm. Brett sent me a PayPal asking, do I have any theories on the true location of the house with the red door? Well, I think it's just what it is. That's the house in Bravos where she was raised. But the red door symbolism is really interesting, and I've definitely talked about that. I've also talked about the fact that the red door essentially is a transformation symbol. When she goes through the red door in her dream, she turns into a dragon. It symbolizes home for her. So leaving home is another transformation thing. Returning home might also be a transformation event. But we see that it's thematically important because it shows that Dany longs for home more than she does the Iron Throne, quote unquote. It's more of a series that's obsessed with the Iron Throne. Yeah. Sir Tomart has become a squisher. It was only a matter of time. So, all right. Where do I want to take this now? Many ideas swirling around in this head here. So, Green Seer spirits come out of the Weirwood trees. The big question is, well, okay, let's go back to the Melisandre Night's Queen parallel. I think that's the next thing to talk about. So, Durrandon, an old friend of mine from the Westeros.org forums, he made a very important observation. Mike, did you send one from before the stream? It might be in my Google Doc, potentially. Yes. Oh, from Tim. Tim wanted to thank me for my videos and my hard work. I've successfully turned Tim and his brother from TV fans to deep lore book fans. Ah, excellent. Awesome. Thank you, Tim. And thank you, people, for helping me catch all the super chats. So Dern had made this really important discovery, which is that Night's King and Queen are parallel to Stannis and Melisandre. So it works like this. We are told that Night's King gave his seed and soul to Night's Queen. And then Night's Queen was already a magical woman. When Night's King saw her north of the wall, she was described as, you know, skin cold as ice, pale as the moon, eyes like blue stars. So she's a White Walker woman. Durin speculated that she's essentially an icy version of Melisandre, a priestess, a sorceress that works with ice magic and has transformed herself. So you have this magical icy woman taking the seed and soul of Night's King, and then they give their children, they're sacrificing to the others, it is discovered. Well, Craster sacrifices to the others, which means he gives his male children to the others to help them create more others. So if we have Night's King and Queen sacrificing to the others, it means that they were giving their children to the others, except that Night's Queen is already an other. So that's different. Gilly's not an other. Craster's not an other, but Night's Queen is, or something like another, right? I'm going to polish off this Red Bull real quick and then pop in a honey lozenge. So if Night's Queen and King sacrificing to the others really has something to do with having children, well, I think we can see what's happening here. Night's Queen is giving his seed and soul to a magical woman, and she's creating children that become the White Shadows. Well, Melisandre is a magical fire woman. She is taking the seed and soul of Stannis. She's pulling from his life fires and draining his vitality in order to make black shadows instead of white shadows. So we get this comparison between the black shadows that are the shadow babies and the others who are white shadows. They both come from magical women taking the seed and soul and life essence of a king and then corrupting the birthing process to make magical entities, right? So it's really strong parallel. And then Stannis goes and takes the Night Fort as his seat, which is the castle where Night's King and Queen ruled and made White Walkers. Okay, so there's more to the Stannis Night King parallels, but that's like the big clue. It's like, oh, he's taken up residence at the Night Fort. He's giving his seed and soul to a magical woman and making shadow children. This is a Night's King figure, you know. And by the way, we're going to do a live stream soon where I'm going to get into this. I'm going to do a series of streams about George's writing techniques. And one of them is just going to be about his use of archetypes and character parallels. I want to try to explain it as a writing technique so people are on board and understand what he's doing and the context for it throughout literature. But that's for another day. So I got a super chat here from Apocalypsagon. Is that Aegon and Apocalypse crammed together? You think in juxtaposition to Dany, Jon will reject his transformation. He might see himself as a monster. He might even enjoy battle more for the sake of feeling the warmth of blood on his skin. Let me see what you're talking about. So I wouldn't say that Dany rejects her transformation, but she definitely questions herself after she bursts the dragons. Am I the mother of monsters? What have I loosed into the world? Stuff like that. That's actually just an indication that Dany's sane and compassionate and not a psychopath. Any rational person that brought dragons back in the world should take a minute to be like, right? So that's kind of what she's doing there. So Jon could certainly have similar moments. They're very similar characters, both very empathetic and self-sacrificing. You know, people that are very young, trying to do the right thing, but don't always know what it is, trying to figure it out. And so I think, Jon Jon certainly will be, especially if there's like horrible blood magic, maybe the sacrifice of Shireen or whatever else used to bring him back, or just used by his allies, quote unquote, while he was dead. He's definitely going to have issues with that. I think the show kind of got that right. So yeah, that's a good point. Jon is always brooding and internally conflicted anyway, so I wouldn't expect that to stop just because he's undead. And by the way, I am going to talk about, I'm going to make a video all about the potential for Dany to be resurrected or shadowbound or something like that, which is something I've been thinking about as I've been making the Melisandre video. All right. I'm now fully powered by R'hllor. I'm assuming a Red Bull is an instrument of R'hllor, right? It's a fiery Red Bull. Bull is usually a solar animal. Gus Mulder, new member. Thank you. And if you're just joining late, you can now join the channel with a membership. It's $5 a month. And then you get access to special emojis and icons. And by the way, the more people join, the more emojis I can create. So I created Beavis, GRRM, LML, and what was the fourth one? Oh, Bernie. That's right. So thank you guys. I'll make more. Definitely all kinds of emojis we can make. All right. So we've got this cool parallel building with Melisandre and Stannis and Knights, King, and Queen. Now, this very important difference is that Knights, King, and Queen make white shadows. Well, they stick around. Like the others are thousands of years old. And the shadow babies seem to dissipate and disappear. Or maybe they're still running around, causing trouble. But I don't think they are. I think we're kind of given the idea that they finished their mission and then they're gone. So, because she has to make a second one to do a second murder. So she couldn't just send new instructions to the shadow baby in the field or something. Adam Wolford says, it's like if we lost tech to make nukes and how to draw power from them, and then centuries later, someone figures out how to make them again. But would it be the right thing to do? Exactly. Exactly. And George himself often compares dragons to, nuclear bomb technology, something that's very powerful. Maybe it can be used for good, but it certainly can be used to destroy the world. So that's definitely the idea. So then we've got, so Melisandre's shadow babies don't stick around, right? And the White Walkers do. So this is an important difference. And this is kind of where we're getting into the Weirwood side of things, right? So think about this. Just from what I've told you, we can see how this is starting to fit together. We've got spirits inside the Weirwood tree that are driven out or called out. Somehow these dead green seer spirits seem to come out of the Weirwood trees and become the others. The thing is that a spirit driven out of a Weirwood tree is a spirit. It's incorporeal. So it's going to need a physical body. The same way as the shadow babies are incorporeal. They don't have a physical body and they dissipate. But we also have these physical human children being sacrificed here or given, offered up to the process somehow. So that must be where the physical body comes from the baby, right? So probably it seems like the baby is killed. The magical mana is used to fashion this ice body that can then hold the escaped tree spirit. It's got to be something like that. It could be that the first Night's Queen, already being a White Walker person, it could be that her babies were already like had physical bodies or whatever. But it seems like what she was probably birthing was somehow like somehow whatever. Okay, let me ask it this way. What happens to the child that would have been born from Stannis and Melisandre's coupling? Like they have sex. Stannis gives her his seed, but then they have a shadow baby. So without getting into like when life begins or all that weird stuff, like what happens to that fertilized egg inside the womb, or what happens to the spirit of the person that would have been that child that's now a shadow baby? It gets eaten up, it disappears somehow. So the same thing must happen to the babies that are given to the others. Like that baby that's given there, the person's spirit, it gets erased, and essentially we have a tree spirit that's getting shoved into the body. This is where it gets into like, it's what sounds like shadow binding. We've got these exiled tree shadows, and they have to get bound to an icy physical body somehow. And somehow that's where the babies come involved. So the chapter that seems to spell this out is the one where baby monster is born. Because at the same time that monster was born, we have a Night's Watchman freezing to death. So we've got this idea of a death being offered up and a baby being born that's going to be a White Walker. And there's a whole lot of clues about this here. So the other part of this whole mystery that I need to explain before we get into this this bit of reading that we're going to do is the Green Zombie Night's Watch. But I've got a couple PayPals, so let's go back. Eamon walking in the food storage with Jon mentions how cold preserves, so it kind of makes sense the white shadows stick around as opposed to fire. Yes, good point. Thematically, yes, cold preserves, fire consumes. However, fire whites are undead, and until you kill them, probably live forever. And I suspect the fire other transformation will enable Mel to be immortal as well. That seems to be the goal. So I think that is true in a thematic sense, but we have to be careful how much we apply that to the magic. However, on a basic level, yes, it does make sense that the icy shadows are preserved and the shadow babies are not. But the thing is that there's no Weirwoods involved with the shadow baby creation. I think there could be a way for Mel to take a shadow baby and then bind that shadow baby to a physical thing. Like, let's say, for example, you had a dead body, somebody freshly killed right by the shadow baby. Let's say Melisandre cuts Davos's throat in the cave after birthing the shadow baby. Could the shadow somehow inhabit the corpse? Or if Melisandre could somehow fashion a fiery golem body, could she bind the shadow to a pillar of fire or something like that? Because that's kind of what the others are like. They are shadows that can, it's implied that they can turn into mist. Their level of substantiality is a little bit up for debate. They don't, they go easy on the snow. They don't depress the snow when they walk on it, which implies that they don't have weight or they're kind of floating. But of course, they duel with Sir Waymar and kill him. So Tormund calls them a mist with teeth. So it could be that they can sort of materialize and dematerialize at will. It's hard to say. But they don't dissipate. They've been around for a long time. It could be that that they're not turning Craster's babies into new White Walkers. It could be that they are consuming those babies to maintain their physical form, much like we're told the witch woman, like Shiera Seastar, bathe in blood, children's blood to maintain their youth. That's a similar idea. That's mostly hearsay, of course, but thematically, it's a similar idea of sacrificing children to gain sorceress power, right? So I guess my point is that we're being given reason to suspect that there's a specific reason why the cold shadows stick around. It's not just because they're cold versus the hot shadows. I think you could get the shadow babies to stick around if you could bind them to something physical. And I think that is what has happened with the with the others. A couple more PayPals. From EP, do you think it's possible the last hero was the son of the Night's King and Queen? Yes. And was saved like Gilly's son? Yes. R plus L equals J, RLJ would be a similar echo. Yes, I made that point in the R plus L equals J, a recipe for Ice Dragons version of the Blood of the Other podcast. Or was it Moons of Ice and Fire? I forget. But yeah, totally. Lyanna is a Night's Queen parallel figure with her crown of blue winter roses. Rhaegar in his night black armor is a Night's King parallel. And of course, my whole theory is that it's actually Azor Ahai who became Night's King. So Night's King is like a dark dragon figure. And that's Rhaegar. So their son is Jon Snow. He's got a name that indicates he's a Snow child. He should be given to the others. And basically, I think this is and then, of course, okay, so Ned rescues this baby, right? Ned rolls up to the scene. There are symbolic White Walkers there, the Kingsguard. Ned and his crew kills them or sends them into conspiratorial secret hiding or whatever it is. And then Lyanna dies, and Ned rescues this child of Night's King and Queen, brings it back to Winterfell, raises it as his family. I think this happened originally with the last hero, or not the last hero, but somebody rescuing a baby from Night's King and Queen, possibly the last hero, and then that child growing up to be a Stark. So it's a little bit of a family cycle thing. It's hard to say if the last hero rescues the child or is the rescued child. But that rescued child, the point is they become a Stark. And so the Starks then have the bloodline of the others. And so the others are looking for a Stark child to be sacrificed to them so they can make him a new Night's King. That is my theory. So check out the Lord Snow video and the Promised to the Others video. But yes, it's all parallel. Thank you, EP. So Aquilin John says, views on a curved planetos with Land of Always Winter being polar regions. What do you think of the Inuit myth of the Tupilak as parallel to the others? Well, it's definitely a curve. It's definitely a planet. George has said that. It's not like a flat Earth. Lands of Always Winter is definitely the North Pole. The curtain of light that Bran sees when he peers into the North Pole would be the Aurora Borealis, which is literally a curtain of light. So that's definitely the North Pole. And the Inuit myth you're talking about, I do not know. So I'm going to copy. I'm going to look it up so I can check it out later. Tupilak. Let me open a new tab. Yeah, so I can't comment on that not knowing off the... I will say that George has used some Native American and Mesoamerican folklore. He lives in Santa Fe, which is a place where you're going to run across a lot of Native folklore and stuff. So I do think he's somewhat versed in that. So it's not out of the question without even knowing what you're talking about. George does like to combine similar sources. Like, so I've always used the magic sword as an example. Lightbringer isn't Arthur Dane's, not Arthur Dane, King Arthur's Excalibur. It's not Dane Whitman's Black Sword. It's not Elric's Stormbringer. It's like all of those swords. It's the Archangel's sword guarding the Garden of Eden. It's all the flaming swords. So similar idea. If he's talking about, evil elves or frozen elves, then he's going to find any related mythology that he can, look for ways to combine it. That's why he's a genius. And yeah, I'll just have to look that up though. Glenn with the super sticker, which you can see on the YouTube side, but not the StreamYard side. And okay, so the Night's Watch. Oh, is there one in the doc I missed? Let me see here. From Tony Sled, the others seem to thrive off evil or criminal behavior. Breaking of the oath of the Night's Watch is important in the magic. How is sin important in all this? well, I don't know if I'd use the word sin, but there are certain I know what you're saying, certain behaviors like guest rights and things like that. Oaths is the key, I guess. I think George is looking at oaths as magical, so it's kind of like a spell, and if you break it, then it's going to have consequences. George just loves consequences for magic. Anything that's powerful in A Song of Ice and Fire, whether it's political power or magical power, George is going to spend a lot of time describing to us the consequences of using it. So that's just the way the world works, and George likes to be realistic in that sense. Now, the others, the original sin is Azor Ahai's invading of the Weirwood net, and this is parallel to the first chapter of the book, where Waymar, a man without fear, like Night's King, with his night black cloak and all that, he invades the woods against every sort of precaution. The woods are clawing at him. His fellow Night's Watch brothers are telling him not to go forward, and he's just charging onward heedlessly, right? Well, that's Azor Ahai seeking magical power, seems to have invaded the Weirwood net through the magical murder of Nissa Nissa, who seems to have been a Child of the Forest character. So this is the original sin. This it really works pretty well, I think, as an overall picture. You've got the Weirwoods originally as the afterlife of the Green Seers and the Children of the Forest, right? Come here, girl. I don't want you to poop on my nice shirt, so just for a minute. Yes, there's a bird, and the other one's in the room because he's the noisy bird. If I had him out here, it'd be awful. So he's distantly heard. This is the quiet one. She gets to be out here. And I lost my train of thought. What was it? Shoot. Oh, the original sin. Okay, so the Weirwoods are like the afterlife of the Children of the Forest and possibly the Green Men. Azor Ahai, seeking the magic power of the Children of the Forest, commits some sort of blood magic rite where he's murdering Nissa Nissa and probably other Children of the Forest. Because again, the Hammer of the Waters legend is probably the same as the Azor Ahai myth, where a bunch of Children of the Forest or Green Men are sacrificed to the Weirwoods, and this calls down the Hammer of the Waters, which is really just a moon meteor. So blood sacrifice to call down fiery things from heaven. It's the same story. So Azor Ahai is forcing his way into the Weirwoods. This permanently changes and alters the Weirwoods, and the spirits that are in there get driven out. So now the Weirwoods have been hollowed out, and Azor Ahai is like a parasite taking up home inside of a thing that isn't his. This makes the Weirwood trees white trees, like WIGHT white, as in like zombies who have had their personality hollowed out, and now they're being possessed by an alien intelligence. And that's exactly what the Weirwoods look like. Blood and bone. They look like dead people that have been turned into trees or something, or dead people trees. So they're whited trees. They've been hollowed out. And that hollowing out was the creation of the others. That is where the others come from. So the others have been wronged. This is why they're not just evil. They are actually victims. They are now cold and vengeful, but they were originally wronged. That's the original sin. And that gives us a perfect way to fix things. So if the Green Seers the human Green Seers don't belong inside the Weirwood net, well, what we need to do is get them out of the Weirwood net. And that's where Bran comes in as the last Green Seer, just like in the show where he sort of downloaded the entire Weirwood net hive mind into his brain. I think something like that is going to happen in the books, where the entire Green Seer hive mind, Blood Raven, and all the people that came before him are going to download into Bran's brain. And that's going to leave the Weirwoods empty so that the others can essentially go back into the wood and leave us all alone. All right, so that's the original sin layer of things. So good question there. And it gives us a way that our heroes can help fix things. Bran can download the hive mind out of the Weirwood net, and Dany and Jon are going to be responsible for neutralizing the others and the whites. I've said in Born to Burn the Others in particular that it seems like burning the others will free the whites from bondage. And Dany has this habit of burning slave lords to free slaves from bondage, and the whites are very much enslaved. So it seems to be leading to the point where Dany's going to free the whites from bondage with dragon fire applied to the others. Perhaps we have to melt them or turn them back until the Weirwood net surgery can be done or something like that. But they've got to get sent back into the trees, and that might need to be done by force. So could be Dany or Jon. Well, will be Dany and Jon doing dragon things. Could also be them sacrificing themselves, either to become knights, queen, and king figures or something along those lines. But I don't want to go down that road. It's a little bit separate. But Dany has a lot of foreshadowing about self-sacrificing, giving herself up in order to free people and take care of people. So I think that's where that's going somehow. Okay, so let's see. Again, so many things in my head. There's one other thing I wanted to say before we read this part. Oh, yes. So the green zombies, you guys know I have a theory about green zombies. Essentially, we see Cold Hands as a ranger of the Night's Watch who is a zombie. He is an ice white, but he doesn't have blue eyes, and he doesn't work for the others. So somehow he was ice whited, but then freed from bondage. And his original spirit, I think, was put back into his body. I suspect that's because Cold Hands is a skin changer. We see him riding the elk and talking to the ravens, which is Green Seer and Green Man behavior. He's also based directly on Herne the Hunter, a character from English folklore who's a variant of Cernunnos and the Green Man. Then we have Jon Snow, who is a skin changer and is about to become an undead Night's Watch Ranger. So if we've got two undead Night's Watch Rangers, it got me thinking. Maybe the last hero and his 12 companions, his 12 companions who died, maybe they died and got resurrected. And maybe the last hero got resurrected too. Because as we see with Cold Hands, whites are ideally suited to range the frozen lands of always winter, aren't they? They don't need to eat. They don't need to sleep. They don't need to stay warm. So all the things that make it very hard for humans to live in the north, whites aren't affected by. So if you had 13 whites that weren't in control of the others, whether they were fire whites or ice whites like Cold Hands, either way, or maybe green seer whites, if that's a thing, they would be ideally suited to journey into the north, the cold northern lands, and confront the others, right? And this theory is backed up by a bunch of symbolic evidence, which I'm not even going to go into. Take my word for it. It's a good theory. Makes sense on its face, though, so I don't feel like I need to go too far to sell it to you if you're new to the channel. We have undead green, Night's Watch Rangers, so maybe we had some in the past. It makes sense. Here's the thing. 13 is an interesting number. The last hero had 12 companions, kind of like Christ and the 12 disciples, right? Or the 12 houses of the zodiac and the sun, something like that. But then we also have Night's King full of 13s. He was the 13th Lord Commander. He ruled for 13 years. And what was the other one? I guess the other one was the last hero and his 12. So people have wondered if the last hero and his 12, maybe that was the Night's King who ruled, for 13 years and was known as the 13th. I think that's close to the truth, but not exactly. There is a link between the creation of the others and the creation of the Night's Watch zombies. And that's what I'm getting around to explaining here. Because it's not hard to see that the black brothers and the white others are kind of like a yin and yang force. They clash all the time. One are called white shadows. One group are called black shadows. They both are a brotherhood of men who have no children. So brothers and others. So it's not hard to see that, right? It's almost as obvious as ice and fire. So what I'm telling you is that the original Night's Watch was in fact these green zombies. but the killing of these people that made the green zombies might have also had something to do with the creation of the others, which creates this bifurcation. It means that the others, the original Night's Watch and the others, really are like long lost brothers. Okay, so this is very strongly suggested in this chapter, this scene where a monster is born at Craster's Keep that we are about to read. So let me find the chapter. Here we are. Hi, good girl. All right, so I'm going to play my little mythical astronomy interlude video, fill up my tea kettle, which I forgot to do, and I'll be back in 1 minute. I have been told that this video is a little bit louder than the rest of the stream, so caution, there's about to be music that's a little high on the volume. I apologize. It's groovy though, so, you know, kick out the jams. Right back. That was almost enough time to do what I needed to do. And yes, that is the view of the universe. The Sri Yantra logo that I've created, the Sri Yantra is a sacred geometry which is supposed to represent the totality of all the dimensions of the universe as seen from above. So overlaying the Sri Yantra with the literal view of the universe as we know it is intentional and symbolic. Yes, you're welcome to jam along with the by the way, that is the Game of Thrones theme reinterpreted by me and my cousin Jamie on the keyboard. So yeah, it's pretty chill. There's definitely room for a guitar lead. Nice. The LML emojis. Ah, yes. Love it. Thank you guys. All right, so let's read what the terrifying chapter, but I hope with the background that I've laid out that the symbolism is going to jump off the page here. Oh yes, one other loose thought. So Nissa Nissa strongly suggested as a child of the forest for a few reasons. I've got an entire series called the Weirwood Goddess. It's actually just 3 podcasts. They're pretty contained. They're not super long. If you haven't done the Weirwood Goddess series, that's definitely one to go back for. Oh, yes, I did see that come through, Parker. I'll get you, buddy. Thank you. The word Nissa seems based on a Scandinavian term called Nis, N-I-S-S-E, Nissa. I don't know how it's said exactly, Nissa. But the Nissa man is a little elf man, and he comes around. He's just like a Grumpkin or a Snark, and he gets the bad little children, or people leave out little offerings for them, just like people leave out offerings for the Ifakevron. Sometimes the Nissa man, not always a man, but they're the little elf people, and sometimes they're mischievous and pranksters. There are some more serious associations with fields and trees and stuff like that, but basically it's a pretty common, well-known thing in Scandinavian folklore, the Nis, or the Nissa, however it's said. So the name Nissa, or just right off the bat, suggests an elf person or something like that. But then the thing is that all the characters who parallel Nissa have children of the forest symbolism of one sort or another. And so it's one of the ideas that I'm most set on. Like Nissa has to be a Weirwood woman, either green man woman, child of the forest woman, or just like a hybrid, but one of those things. So what I'm trying to say is that it's very possible that Knight's Queen could also be a similar figure, a Weirwood figure. And if we look at some of the Knight's Queen figures like Lyanna or Val, they are associated with Weirwoods very heavily. Lyanna actually plays the role of the Knight of the Laughing Tree, whose sigil is a Weirwood face. So she's a Weirwood knight. That's actually a clue about the others being Weirwood soldiers. Lyanna kind of gives birth to the Knight of the Laughing Tree. The Knight of the Laughing Tree is a Weirwood knight. So Val wears a Weirwood brooch, right, and comes and goes in the haunted forest at will. So she's implied as a Weirwood woman. And so when we see Knight's King and Queen, and I'm telling you that Knight's King gave his magical seed and soul, again, I think he's a dragon person, because all the Knight's King figures are Azor Ahai or dragon people: Stannis, Euron, Jon, Rhaegar, Aegon the Conqueror, Aemond One Eye, etc., etc. So Knight's King gives his dragon seed and soul to this ice priestess woman, but this ice priestess woman, like I said, probably part child of the forest or green man. She might be Nissa's spirit in the Weirwood net, if you really want to get abstract with it. The point is that these children that she's creating that get turned into the others are probably part human and part child of the forest. So the others really are related to the children of the forest and the humans as well. I just wanted to say that. And that's why we have those clues about, Cotter Pike asks Sam after he gets back from killing the White Walker in the woods. He says, are you sure that's another you stabbed, or just some child's snow knight? Meaning like a snowman that a child would make. In Westeros, they make snow knights instead of snowmen because they're obsessed with war and violence. But of course, if the others are a child's snow knight, then that means that they are a snow knight somehow tied to the children of the forest, but also to babies, to children. Because if you sacrifice a baby and it gets turned into an other or fuels the creation of an other, then the snow knight it's a child's snow knight made from a child who might be a child of the forest. So there's a couple layers to that. And I just wanted to lay that out. Thank you, Desmond, for becoming a new member. And let's go over to the PayPals because I saw a couple come in. Refresh. Come on. Don't tell me you're unable to check the mail. Doing a live stream, Gmail. I need to see Parker's. Oh, that's because I'm on the wrong page. I went back a page. Derp. User error, as always. It's always user error, isn't it? Oh, got a few came in. Okay, thanks, guys. All right, let's go through these before I read this passage. Glenn Thrasher with just a thank you. Thank you. Cameron says, I'm worshiping Garth right now, so you're blowing my mind. What if the ice spirits of the White Walkers can't be killed like the Nazgul. So they are moving from one body to another to remain here. Like if the Weirwood is the natural afterlife for green seers, they're like angels. But when Azor Ahai dragged them out, they kind of become fallen angels like Lucifer. Yeah, exactly. That's where all the icy lake symbolism comes from. The one Sam killed went back to the Weirwood net because the baby body wasn't there to receive its spirit. And maybe the blood of ice and fire is uniquely suited to host a spirit, which could be the perfect resurrection for Azor Ahai. So this is what I was saying, is it could be that there's only like 7 or 12 others, and they continually need more babies to perpetrate their existence. That could be. It might not be that one baby creates a White Walker and then the White Walker's there forever. That would explain why they need constant babies. Because if all of Craster's sons are getting turned into White Walkers, well, then there might be a whole lot of White Walkers. And I don't think there is. I think there's only a few. And I think they're going to be super old. So this makes sense to me. It would also make the others kind of like a hive mind, in that if they keep eating babies, essentially, just like the squishers are said to eat the male babies. And the squishers are others parallels, by the way. If they're eating the babies, then each other is like a hive mind, because they're absorbing multiple sacrificed human consciousnesses, right? And that kind of fits, because they are Weirwood spirits, so they're doing the hive mind thing outside of the Weirwood, essentially. I think that makes a lot of sense, actually, the more that I think about it. And yeah, the Nazgul can be killed. I think the wording was poor there. What they meant to say is that they don't want to be killed, and so they have to keep well, I forgot what the question was now. I think the wording was a little screwy there. Obviously the Nazgul does get killed, so it can be killed, but not by anything other than like a magical weapon, I guess, maybe is the point. Same as the others. The others can't be killed unless you have, dragon glass or potentially Valyrian steel. And now for the honey. I don't have a spoon, so I'm just going to slow ooze it. Oh, yeah. There we go. I know it's ASMR now, except for you. If I had the camera up close on the pouring honey, it was pretty fun to watch. All right, so I guess we're ready to read this chapter now. Again, we're not going to read the whole chapter, just a little bit of it. It's a 50-minute chapter if you read fast. So this is Samwell 2 from A Storm of Swords. Oh, it's about 420. I guess I should take my 420 before I start reading. Yes, that is true. Let's pull up some good artwork. What can I pull up? I will pull up the one I used for the stream, because it's one of my favorites. It's by Jian Li, and yeah, it's just sick. There you go. 60 seconds, guys. I'll be right back. Whoops. All right. So I think I got to change glasses now. I got the 420 vision. Let's go. Orange and blue contrast. There we go. Ooh, oh, everything's bright now. Okay. So, if anything of what I've said sounded jumbled or confused, again, check out Weirwalkers and Origin of the Other Night's Queen. And even if it's not confusing and you're not sure how much you agree with or, you know, whatever, just listen to this narrative, see what you make of it. I'll just put it that way. It's very clearly juxtaposing the freezing death of a night's watchman with the birth of baby monster. And there's talk of the others in Dragon Glass and the last hero all through. So I'm just going to read this and you tell me what you think. I'll probably stop and make some points as I go here. But up in the loft, a woman was giving birth noisily, while below a man lay dying by the fire. Samwell Tarly could not say which frightened him more. So right at the beginning, the first two sentences are contrasting the woman giving birth up above and a man dying down below. They'd covered poor Bannon with a pile of furs and stoked the fire high, yet all he could say was, "I'm cold. Please, I'm so cold." Sam was trying to feed him onion broth, but he could not swallow. The broth dribbled over his lips and down his chin as fast as Sam could spoon it in. "That one's dead." Craster eyed the man with indifference as he worried at a sausage. "Be kinder to stick a knife in his chest than that spoon down his throat, you ask me." "I don't recall as we did." Giant was no more than 5 feet tall. His true name was Bedwick, but a fierce little man for all that. "Slayer, did you ask Craster for his counsel?" Sam cringed at the name, but shook his head. He filled another spoon, brought it to Bannon's mouth, and tried to ease it between his lips. "Food and fire," Giant was saying. "That was all we asked of you, and you grudged us the food." "Be glad I didn't grudge you the fire, too." Craster was a thick man, made thicker by the ragged, smelly sheepskins he wore day and night. He had a broad, flat nose, a mouth that drooped to one side, and a missing ear. And though his matted hair and tangled beard might be gray going white, his hard, knuckly hands still looked strong enough to hurt. "I fed you what I could, but you crows are always hungry. I'm a godly man, else I would have chased you off. You think I need the likes of him dying on my floor? You think I need all your mouths, little man?" The wildling spat. "Crows. When did a black bird ever bring good to a man's hall, I ask you? Never. Never." More broth ran from the corner of Bannon's mouth. Sam dabbed it away with a corner of his sleeve. The ranger's eyes were open but unseeing. "I'm cold," he said again, so faintly. A maester might have known how to save him, but they had no maester. Kedge Wide-Eye had taken Bannon's mangled foot off 9 days past, in a gout of pus and blood that made Sam sick, but it was too little, too late. "I'm cold," the pale lips repeated. Okay, so let me stop there. And I know I also just did an ADD thing. I was reading PayPals. I stopped halfway through and started reading the chapter. I'll come back to the PayPals. I'm sorry. Bear with me. I do have ADHD. I'm doing my best. So a couple of things happened here. We've got this contrast of like I said, the birthing of what is going to be baby monster above and the Night's Watch Ranger dying down below. Now, here's the thing. So Craster, I've said that he's obviously going to be a Night's King parallel figure because he is giving his children to the others, just as Night's King and Queen did. So we see that he wears sheepskins. Sheepskins are a good other symbol because, first of all, they make you look white, right? Craster, when he doesn't have male children, offers sheep to the others. I'm not sure if the others can use maybe like 100 sheep equals one baby, or if that's just a symbolic stand-in. I'm not sure. But for whatever reason, the offered babies and sheep are made parallel. So Craster dressing in sheepskin is a symbolic other's cloak. And Jon also becomes, when he does the wolf in sheep's clothing routine, he goes north of the wall and joins the wildlings and trades his black cloak for a sheepskin. Okay, now the wildlings are symbolic others, especially in that chapter where Jon lets them through the wall. They're called others 7 times through wordplay and stuff like that. So Jon, a man of the Night's Watch, hides his black cloak under his saddle, puts on the white sheepskin, and joins the symbolic group of others. So here we see Craster wearing sheepskin, pretty consistent symbolism. Then we've got, where's Sheepstealer when you need him? That'd be cool. Nettles and Sheepstealer just swoop down and eat Craster. That'd be sweet. All right, so let's see here. So Bannon is the important Night's Watchman here. Not only does he freeze to death, but he's going to be burned in a pyre, and he's going to seem to wake from the pyre, which is essentially the Night's Watch zombie idea. You've got a dead Night's Watchman being burned in a pyre and then coming back to life. Essentially, that's what's going to happen to Jon, right? Something like that. And we've seen that the Night's Watch, there's a symbolic parallel between Beric the Firewhite, who's a scarecrow, and the burning scarecrow Night's Watch brothers on the wall, which are a big part of the Green Zombies clue. And so, Tut, oh, are you done? You need some attention? You're being pretty good today, girl. So Bannon, he is the model for this resurrected Night's Watchman here. First, he's going to give his life force to help birth another, and then he's going to be resurrected in the pyre, essentially. But I want to tell you that Bannon is intentionally made parallel with Sam through this whole chapter in several ways. And the reason for that is because Sam is a prime last hero figure. He's the one who rescues the other baby in this scene, which is a last hero thing, like we were talking about earlier. He also is the 13th man to return from Craster's. In a later chapter, we find 12 Night's Watch brothers survived the mutiny and made it back to the wall. Sam's the 13th. He comes back later with Gilly. He does a ton of Knights of Last Hero stuff. He's just a heroic figure. I shouldn't have to sell you the idea that Sam is a last hero figure. He certainly is. He's a heroic Night's Watchman. He's humble but heroic. And he is contrasted with Bannon. So Bannon, the name Bannon means slayer of men. Slayer of warriors, actually, is what it means. So Sam is called Slayer right next to while he's feeding Bannon. It's like, Slayer, did you ask Craster for his counsel? Slayer cringed at the name and kept feeding Bannon, who is Slayer. They said that Bannon's foot had to be taken off because it was rotting. It was infected. Sam loses his boot in the mud and then gets his sock wet and thinks about how it's all wet and stuff. So he's losing a foot symbolically. When Bannon burns, he's going to smell like pork crackling, and Sam is called Sir Piggy, and they discuss that nickname right next to discussing how he smells like pork. So I just want to set that up before we go so that you can see that parallel as it evolves. So Bannon is freezing, and Monster is being born. Skipping ahead a little bit. I'm cold, said Bannon. Please, I'm cold. For all the heat and smoke in Craster's hall, Sam felt cold himself, and tired, so tired. He needed sleep, but whenever he closed his eyes, he dreamed of blowing snow and dead men shambling toward him with black hands and bright blue eyes. Up in the loft. So the last hero... Oh, there's another last hero thing. So the last hero, his sword broke and his 12 friends died when he was being chased in the cold, dead lands by the others, right? So Sam has literally just been chased from the fist of the first men, and a bunch of his friends died. So he's on the run from the others, just like the last hero. Okay. So up in the loft, Gilly let out a shuddering sob, think Nissa Nissa, shuddering wail, probably, that echoed down the long, windowless hall. Push, she heard one of Craster's older wives tell her. Harder, harder, scream if it helps. She did, so loud it made Sam wince. Craster turned his head to glare. I've had a belly full of that shrieking, he shouted up. Give her a rag to bite down on, or I'll come up there and give her a taste of my hand. He would, too, Sam knew. Craster had 19 wives, but none who'd dare interfere once he started up the ladder. So, setting aside Craster's awful, of course, he abuses his women who are also his daughters. He's a horrible person. Craster has 19 wives, though. I can't help but notice there's 19 castles on the Night's Watch. It's a very specific number to use. And, of course, Craster symbolizes Night's King. Night's King was a Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. So why does Craster have 19 wives? What's the parallel? I'm not sure. I guess Craster is kind of like the wall, and his wives are kind of like the castles. Maybe Night's King, originally they were using those castles to collect babies for the others, with names like Snowgate. But not really sure. Just want to point that out. I always point it out, and I'm waiting for somebody to sort of give me the home run explanation for it. But there's a lot of numerology in this chapter that I'm going to point out, actually. And I'm always confused by it. So, making sure I didn't miss any super chats while I'm doing this. Yes. No. Sent one. Could monster be given to the others because people aren't ready to fight them? Buying peace like Craster and maybe the third. No. That's terrible. Suggesting that we give monster to the others. That's like this horrible video going around on Twitter of this woman on a boat. And there's a bunch of orcas circling the boat, and a sea lion jumps up on the boat. And the woman is scared, rightfully, because the orcas are huge. And she makes the sea lion jump off the boat so they can escape. And it's horrible. And I want her to die now. But sorry for that. Come here, girl. You should always protect the sea lions when they jump on your boat. Orcas are mean. Orcas like torture animals for fun. I don't care how many there are. They're mean. In any case, sorry, I'm a little bit of a softie. Where was I? Why did I talk about that? Probably because I saw it earlier and it traumatized me. So yeah, could monster be given to the others to buy peace? Maybe. It's probably too late. I think the real thing they're looking for is Jon. They're still after the original baby that was stolen from Night's King and Queen, who was then given to the Starks. I'm still thinking of those damn orcas. Given to the Starks. And so the Starks are descended from a bloodline of a stolen other baby, and therefore the others might want a certain magical Stark, specifically a dragon-blooded Stark, because Night's King was a dragon-blooded person. So I know it is upsetting. I literally want to shove the woman in the ocean and save the sea lion. That's not like morally correct, but there are a billion sea lions in the world. However, sorry, I wish I hadn't brought that up. Now I'm sad again. But in theory, yes, no. All the people living north of the wall potentially could have been giving children to the others, not just Craster. It's very unlikely Craster's the only one. We know the people on the frozen shore worship gods of snow and ice, which means the others. And if they worship the others, that means they probably give their children to the others. We also see that it works. The others and the whites never bother Craster. The entire north is deserted because the wildlings are running from the others, but Craster does not. And he says, I'm a godly man, got no cause to fear such. And basically that's the deal. Like if you give your children to the others, they leave you alone. So it's got to be that Craster's not the only one. So again, either the others have like a lot of others, or they need a constant supply of babies to maintain their life essence, like vampires. I think that's what it is. I mean, it also parallels the implied bolt-on theory, where we've got one immortal skin changer consuming his own children generation after generation to maintain his youth or whatever, essentially. So, yeah. Yeah, they do attack sailboats. No, I get it. They're mean. They're velociraptors in tuxedos. Yeah. And of course, zoos and SeaWorld's also bad and stuff. But whatever. In any case, that's not really what we're talking about. So, although orcas are thematically appropriate, they are black and white, just like the Shadow Cat. And the Shadow Cat, by the way, is a clue about the others and the White Walkers being part of the same crew. The Shadow Cat is like black with white stripes, and it's got those harvest moon eyes. Let's see. So here we go. Actually, let me go back. Let me check out these PayPals that I missed. I want to make sure there wasn't one that was timely. Oh, and I had something else to say about the Nazgul connection too. What was it? Oh, yes. So the Nazgul are also known as the Nine, and they wear those black crowns. In fact, all you can see is like a shadow with a black crown and the burning eyes or whatever. So the Starks have a black crown with 9 swords. And me and my friend Blue Tiger, who's my Tolkien expert buddy, have wondered if maybe that's a shout out to the Nazgul and the fact that the Starks are descended from the others. We've also got that Weirwood Grove of 9 up there in the north, which is potentially a place where Green Zombie Night's Watchmen or others may have been created. So I think there could be some Nazgul nods there with that number 9. Cameron says, oh, made a stream. Happy to be here. I saw somebody in the chat saying it was their first stream just a minute ago, too. So that's cool. Here we go, Parker. What's the deal with Rickon and Davos? Do you think Rickon is some super skin changer, or is he just a causality? Also, are you mad at me? I'm not. Why would I be mad at you? No. I'm not mad at you, buddy. You're awesome. Dude, you send me some of the best super chats and PayPals. If as soon as I saw your name, I'm like, oh yeah, Parker, that guy who always sends me tons of PayPals. If I miss something of your question, just repeat it. I have ADD, so usually when people think I'm mad at them, it's like actually just some absent-minded thing. But no, you're good, buddy. You're good, and thank you. Like I said, always generous. Rickon and Davos. Rickon is going to be a powerful skin changer for a couple reasons. One, he developed his gift at a young age, the youngest of any of the Starks. He also had the dream about Lord Eddard's death, and that's why Bran and Maester Luwin found Rickon down in the crypts in that very cool scene where Rickon and Shaggy Dog jump out of the sepulcher like a total hellhound guardian of the underworld that the Starks represent. So yes, I do think Rickon will be a powerful skin changer. He'll be very wild. I've often compared him to young Varamir Sixskins, who accidentally killed his younger brother by skin changing the family dog and taking out his childish wrath on his brother in a way that he didn't really understand. So I think I need to address the practices of SeaWorld before we proceed. No, I didn't. I just say it was horrible. I mean, I think that's the overarching. I'm not an expert on it, but it's definitely horrible. So imprisoned animals are always tough. I mean, I even feel, just on a serious note, I don't recommend people get pet parrots. There's a lot of ethical questions about pet parrots. Originally, they were essentially stolen from other countries. And now you're not allowed to like take parrots from the wild. So it's only domesticated ones that are, bred and stuff. But the problem is with a lot of exotic animals, people underestimate, and sorry for the real talk here, but I always have birds and I make them look fun. So I feel like I should say this once in a while. It's hard to take care of a parrot. It's hard to give them quality of life in captivity. It's very challenging. I stress out about it a lot and spend a lot of time and effort to give Cleo and Goose a good quality of life. And I'm home all the time. So mostly what happens is people buy birds and then they realize they can't take care of them and they sell them back to a shelter and they get passed around and the animals they get traumatized. And like, please don't buy parrots. It's, if you really want a pet bird, I tell people to get a cockatiel, because cockatiels are a lot easier to take care of and meet their needs. And it's much less likely to end up in that kind of situation that I'm talking about. They're kid friendly and stuff. But as much as I love my birds, like there's a lot of problems with the industry as a whole. And so I don't really recommend it. And if you really want to get a pet parrot, you need to do your research and understand you're committing to 50 years of taking care of a little winged monkey that wants your attention and wants stuff to do all the time. So just real talk there. I got him like 15 years ago, so I was a lot younger. And yeah, it's a little bit of a conflicty thing. So, I mean, I love them. I obviously enjoy their company and they're great pets, but it's just hard to give them a quality of life. You have to be home all the time. I have them out all day. They're all over me. It limits the amount of things that I can do there is a bird hotel where I can take and board them, and they get good care for a week or two if I need to travel. But it's I mean, it's kind of like having a smart dog. Like, somebody needs to be home. You can't leave a dog at home for 12 hours while you're at work and come home and expect it to be happy. It's going to tear up the house. It's going to be stressed out. You have to have somebody come and walk it. Somebody's got to be home. So it's like that, only worse with birds. And they're both about, like I said, about 15. And Cleo could be like, she could live to like 60 or 70. She seems really stubborn. I don't think she's ever going to die. All right, let's get back on topic. Sorry. Let's see here. So Rickon and Davos, how's their story going to end? I do owe you guys a Rickon Winds of Winter predictions video. I think that he's going to be used as a political football between the northern political players, the Manderleys and Boltons and Stannis. He'll probably end up dying a tragic death somewhere, but he doesn't have to. The idea that a Shaggy Dog story is a story that goes nowhere doesn't mean he has to die. It just means that he's not really going to be a main character. But I do think that he is going to come back into play, and I do believe the Skygosi with their, George has said we're going to see the unicorns, the one-horned goats, the horny goats from Skagos. George has said we're going to see them. So I tend to think that some of the Skygosi will be coming back with Rickon, and they'll be joining in the fight somewhere, and that'll be some cool fantasy stuff. So I kind of just need to see Rickon riding Shaggy Dog into battle with horny goats, and I'll be happy. After that, whatever happens, I'm good with it. So I have my Night King tea mug here. He doesn't really have a good handle. He's very hot, and I literally need oh, here's some napkins. I can use that maybe just to hold it. Okay. All right. Yes. Oh, please give me horny goats and unicorn emojis. This is the time. In Deep Geek stole that from me. I was the one who originated horny goats. Now he's got horny goat friggin' mugs that he sells. It's all good. I'm not actually bitter about that. Okie dokie. So let me get back to this chapter. Oh, there's another one from Parker. Let me get this too. Wouldn't you be happier if you were some undead other than being dead for all time? Because I'd rather be an other than some dead human. Maybe that's why the others are so insistent on staying alive. Well, yes, the others are directly paralleled to the Undying, right? The Undying, and this is another, yeah, so I should have thought about this. So the Undying, the House of the Undying, Dany goes in there. She sees a bunch of visions. She finally gets to the inner sanctum. She sees these cold blue shadows. That's what they're called. They're blue shadows, and they're cold. They're like husks. They're barely alive. And they've been alive for a long time. They've been drinking Shade of the Evening so long. They've transformed themselves. So just like a green seer transforms into a tree person to use that magic, just like Melisandre's turning into a fire other by using fire magic, the Undying have transformed their physiology by drinking Shade of the Evening and doing whatever else they do, practicing warlock magic. But the key is that at the end, we see that they're trying to suck Dany's life away. They're all gathered around her. They give her visions that trick her into giving herself to the slaves that she sees in the visions. But then the Undying are actually there sucking on her eyes and her body and biting her and says they needed the life and the fire. So I think what they wanted to do was take this magically potent person, Daenerys, and basically feed on her energy like magical psychic vampires. And this would have given them power, except for Drogon roasted their asses. Jacaris. But this is probably, again, another clue that the others are taking these baby sacrifices and not even necessarily creating new White Walkers, but using it to sustain their own existence. Because that's what the Undying want to do with Daenerys' life force. Now, it could be that the others are trying to manifest, I keep saying that the others are tree spirits that got kicked out of the Weirwoods. Well, kicked out of the Weirwoods, a variation of that idea is that the Weirwood net got bifurcated, just like the wall bifurcates the north and south of Westeros, and that the others have been cut off, and they're in a segregated part of the Weirwood net, the frozen pond versus the green sea that the green seers are in, right? So it could be that the White Walkers are making more White Walkers, and each time they take a baby, a new tree spirit gets pulled out of the Weirwood net and incorporated in the physical realm. So if they are making more White Walkers, that's what they would be doing. They would be pulling more of their Greenseer brothers out of the frozen Weirwood net and into the physical plane. But I think it makes more sense that they are taking the babies and using them to sustain their life force. And this, by the way, was the point of this live stream, was for me to sort of workshop this with you guys and try to get as close as we could. Because I told you I didn't have an exact answer. I just have a bunch of these clues, and I want to show them to you so we can put it together. So I think we're making progress here. All right. So, yes, exactly. It's the others would be trying to stay alive, kind of like the Nazgul, like the Undying. They're just like vampires. They're trying to stay alive at this point. So even if they were wronged originally when they were forced out of the Weirwood net, it could be that now they're trying to sustain their own existence, or maybe they just have to. And I see a couple of super chats too coming. You guys are keeping me going today. Thank you. Miss Mason says, have we ever seen the dragon guarding a sacred tree trope in A Song of Ice and Fire? Yes. Perhaps Bloodraven is a dragon protecting the Weirwood net. That we'll always see our ice dragon in the lands of always winter. Yeah, totally. Daemon Targaryen in the Godswood prepping for his fight with Aemond One Eye as well. But yeah, Bloodraven is the main one. The Weirwood roots themselves are described as white serpents. So yeah, that symbolism is all over the place. I need to do more research into that trope, though, because I think there could be clues that I haven't unlocked there. Because I keep saying, oh, Azor Ahai the dragon, he went into the Weirwood tree. That's actually George's version of this trope. So instead of guarding the sacred tree, he's invading it. So good question. You guys, by the way, very good at sending me PayPals and super chats that are on theme. So thank you very much for you guys are kind of like program directors. You're controlling the content with your comments and questions, and you are doing a good job. So nice way to stay on topic. So Amelia says this is all. By the way, if you want me to use your YouTube name or a Patreon nickname, of course, just put it in the comments with your question, and I'll read that. I don't mean to embarrass any of you with your real names. Sorry. This is all adding more thematic legitimacy to Craster being a bastard of Bloodraven. No, a bastard of Maester Aemon. So on Twitter this week, oh gosh, who was it? So one of the myth friends made a good discovery, which is when Aemon is talking to Jon about his vows being tested 3 times, he gives this, what is duty compared to a woman's love or the feel of a newborn child in your arms? And there is no newborn child that Aemon could be talking about. Even when Egg had a kid, like he wasn't around, I think, or something like that. So this is a clue that Aemon has held a newborn child of his own in his arms at one point. So we're told that Craster is a bastard child of some black crow from the wall, long dead, because Craster's in his 50s. So this would have to be someone who's like 80 or more. But Maester Aemon is that old. He's like 100. So I've been looking for a way for Craster to be a Blood of the Dragon person forever, because of all the other Night's King people are dragon people or Azor Ahai people. Like I said, Stannis is a Night's King figure, but he's wielding a flaming sword like Azor Ahai. Jon Snow has both Azor Ahai and Night's King symbolism. Aemond One Eye. Euron is trying to ride a dragon, but he's also a Night King figure. And he's wearing Valyrian steel armor, guys. Aemond One Eye obviously is a dragon lord. So Craster was the only one who didn't fit. However, Craster is an incest-loving shepherd. Right? Just like the Valerians were incest-loving shepherds. That's right. The Valerians originally were shepherds, and they practiced incest. So Craster is obviously a Valerian. But no, seriously, I think he is the bastard child of Aemon. So Aemon and Bloodraven were the two candidates, but I think it was Aemon based on this clue that somebody found this week of Aemon talking about holding a newborn child in his arms, and that being a test of his vows. So there you go. Maester Aemon is the father of Craster. Craster does have the blood of the dragon, and that makes his sacrifices especially desirable for the others and mimics the pattern of knights, king, and queen. And once again, if you're joining late, I'm summarizing stuff that I've explained very concisely and persuasively in videos called Origin of the Others, Knights, Queen, Weirwalkers, and Knights, King, Azor Ahai. So check out those videos after this live stream. If this sounds interesting and you kind of want to know, like I said, the detailed examples of what I'm talking about here. So let me get back to this chapter reading here. Again, Gilly is about to give birth up above. Craster is down below complaining about Gilly's screaming. Sam is trying to feed Bannon, who's freezing to death. And so Sam has a bit of inner monologue about how Craster abuses his wives and how he wanted to do something. But he's supposed to be a friend to the watch, so they can't interfere. A friend, thought Sam, as he listened to Gilly's muffled shrieks. Craster was a brutal man who ruled his wives and daughters with an iron hand, but his keep was a refuge all the same. Frozen crows, Craster sneered when they straggled in, those few who had survived the snow, the whites, and the bitter cold. And not so big a flock as went north, neither. Yet he had given them space on his floor, a roof to keep the snow off, a fire to dry them out, and his wives had brought them cups of hot wine to put some warmth in their bellies. Bloody crows, he called them, but he'd fed them too, meager though the fare might be. So all the crows are frozen. Bannon is the one who's literally freezing to death, but symbolically all of these nice watchmen are frozen. Then skipping a bit further, it says, it was her child Gilly feared for. She was frightened it might be a boy. Craster raised up his daughters to be his wives, but there were neither men nor boys to be seen about his compound. Gilly had told Jon that Craster gave his sons up to the gods. If the gods are good, they will send her a daughter, Sam prayed. Up in the loft, Gilly choked back a scream. That's it, a woman said. Another push now. Oh, I see his head. Hers, Sam thought miserably. Her head, hers. Cold, Bannon said weakly. Please, I'm so cold. Sam put the bowl and spoon aside, tossed another fur across the dying man, put another stick on the fire. Gilly gave a shriek and began to pant. Craster gnawed on his hard black sausage. He had sausages for himself and his wives, he said, but none for the watch. Women, he complained, the way they wail. I had me a fat sow once, birthed a litter of 8, with no more'n a grunt. Chewing, he turned his head to squint contemptuously at Sam. She was near as fat as you, boy. Slayer, he laughed. So Sam gets compared to a pig here, and of course he's going to think about his Sir Piggy nickname later, and that's all to help compare him to Bannon, who smells like pork crackling when he gets burned. And by the way, that might be a parallel to Victarion's arm looking like pork crackling. The fire whites might have burned skin sometimes like that. So I don't know. Could be a thing. Super chat from Kiefer. What do you think of Jon changing his name to Aemon post-resurrection, finding out his parentage? Do you think Sam will tell him? Bran, Mel. I think Jon will find out the truth in a vision, or maybe see Lyanna. He's got to finish his crypt stream, basically. And I think Bran will fill him in too, yeah. I think Aemon would be a great name for Jon. Aegon doesn't make a lot of sense, so I like that. Aemon the Dragon Knight is an important dragon other figure too. He's a dragon knight, but he joins the King's Guard, which have all the symbolism of the White Walkers. Monster's blood will actually have huge power then. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Mel may figure that out too. Jon may have screwed up by leaving baby Monster at the wall, taking Mance's son, thinking, oh, Mel will think Mance's son has king's blood and want to use him for a sacrifice. Well, baby Monster's probably got even more potent blood, so. I know the sow would be a moon reference. She's a pregnant sow giving birth, so that's like the moon giving birth. Sam is a moon character. That's why he winces when Gilly screams. It's like the crack across the face of the moon from Nissa Nissa's scream. And again, you see Nissa Nissa and Night's Queen characters have a lot of overlap, which makes me think they might be like sisters or something like that. They're both children of the forest women at the very least. All the honey's at the bottom. I'm trying to store it up. Come on and stir it up. Oh, yeah. So you see this narrative, the birthing of Monster and the freezing of Bannon, like line for line, it's juxtaposed. Gilly screams. Bannon says, I'm cold. I can see the head. Bannon is dying. Just back and forth, right? So it began with a sentence contrasting the two events, and it just keeps it up through the whole narrative. And the fact that it's so heavy-handed, it's like George is really shoving our face in it. Like, look at this freezing Night's Watchman. Look at this baby being born that's going to be given to the others. So I'll explain what I think that means, but let's keep reading. So Sam goes outside, and it says, downwind, other brothers were skinning and butchering the animals deemed too weak to go on. So we've got brothers who are skinning animals. They're skin changer brothers. Spearmen and archers walked sentry behind the earthen dikes that were Craster's only defense against whatever hid in the wood beyond, while a dozen fire pits sent up thick fingers of blue-gray smoke. So again, we're going to use this dozen number a lot. The last hero had a dozen companions. There's a dozen fires here. One of those fires is going to be used to burn Bannon, the Night's Watch Ranger. And the fires are sending up fingers of blue-gray smoke. So blue-gray smoke, that's essentially an image of an other, isn't it? The others are like mist, and they're like shadows. They have blue eyes, so it's pretty similar. Also, the fingers make the smoke sound like a person. And the whole thing I'm contrasting here, I'm telling you that Bannon's death is somehow going to fuel the birth of the White Walker, but then Bannon himself is going to be turned into a Night's Watch fire zombie. So we're going to see that split. So going up from these fires is smoke that looks like others, just as Bannon dying inside is implied as a symbolic fuel for the birth of the other. So then it says, Sam could hear the distant echoes of axes at work in the forest, where a work detail was harvesting enough wood to keep the blazes burning all through the night. Nights were the bad time, when it got dark and cold. So they're burning fires through the night. Melisandre does the same thing wherever she is, and she does it even more when she gets to the wall. So you can see that a Rolorist practice also doubles as an anti-others practice. So we've got, again, Bannon's going to turn into a symbolic fire white. So we've got Martin invoking the idea of fire magic practices. We're keeping the night fires burning, essentially. And nights are the bad time. The nights are dark and full of terrors. So there had been no attacks while they had been at Craster's, neither whites nor others, nor would there be, Craster said. A godly man got no cause to fear such. I said as much to that man's raider once when he came sniffing around. He never listened no more than you crows with your swords and your bloody fires. That won't help you none when the white cold comes. Only the gods will help you then. You best get right with the gods. Gilly had spoken of the white cold as well, and she had told them what sort of offerings Craster made to his gods. Sam had wanted to kill him when he heard. There are no laws beyond the wall, he reminded himself, and Craster's a friend to the watch. A friend. Oh, yes. Very friendly. Do you think Craster knew that Jon was more than a Stark? He seemed to sense him. No. He picked out the Stark look when he saw Jon. But no, I don't know how he would have any clue about Jon's dragon blood just because he's Aemon's bastard. No, I don't think so. All right. Verimir, can he sense that Jon is a warg? Well, only if Craster was a warg, which I don't think he is. So he may have looked at Jon and the wolf and figured it out. Certainly. That would make sense. Yeah. So thank you. And once again, thank you to everyone subscribing with the join button, doing the YouTube membership thing, $5 a month. You get access to the special emojis and you get a little squisher badge and your name turns green. So yeah, if I missed anybody who signed up today, like 1337 Leanne, then I will just say thank you en masse to everyone and everyone watching the video and joining after the fact. So thanks, guys. Yes, I'm wearing a shirt of Starry Wisdom today. Join, idiots. That's not good marketing, Parker. Some people do that sort of marketing. I'm not antagonistic though. I'm nice. They don't come up as green on mobile. Well, they are green in oh, you know what? I think they're just green in the StreamYard thing. They don't look green on the YouTube. So on YouTube you get the squisher icon, and on my screen they come up green. Sorry to get any of you guys excited. Oh no, they do. Mighty Monarch is green. Okay, they do turn. I take it back. The names are turning up green. Minty, your name's not green because you're a mod, and the blue mod text is taking precedence over the green text. That's what's happening. So there we go. Thank you to Ravens becoming a member. Downtown Clowny Brown. What do you think happened to Benjen? Oh, okay. Well, so I think Benjen got whited. There's a lot of wordplay clue. The Raven screaming dead and Jon looking at the corpses and thinking about Benjen, the corpses that get whited. So I do think Benjen got whited, but maybe the others did something more with him because he's a Stark. Maybe there's something awful. I don't know. I feel like we have to get closure on it, but maybe it'll just be when the army of whites invades Winterfell and someone will recognize Benjen. It'll be like, oh, fuck, there he is. Craster ate him at breakfast. Possible. I do think it was Cold Hands who hid the dragon glass on the fist, though. Okay, so let's see. So the brothers are skinning and butchering animals. There's a dozen fire pits. Night's the bad time. Craster talks about giving his children to the gods. Back of a vegetable garden, an empty sheepfold, a dozen black brothers were loosing arrows at a butt they built of hay and straw. Let's see. The blonde steward they called Sweet Donald had just laid a shaft. Just off the bullseye at 50 yards. Best that, old man, he said. I will. Ulmer, stooped and gray-bearded and loose of skin and limb, stepped to the mark and pulled an arrow from the quiver at his waist. In his youth, he had been an outlaw, a member of the infamous Kingswood Brotherhood. He'd claimed he'd once put an arrow through the hand of the white bull of the Kingsguard to steal a kiss from the lips of a Dornish princess. He had stolen her jewels, too, in a chest of golden dragons, but it was the kiss that he liked to boast of in his cups. So shades of the Dornishman's wife here. the song The Dornishman's Wife, right? Because he's the character in that story stealing a kiss from the Dornishman's wife, and then gets killed with a black sword. And here we have Ulmer stealing a kiss from the Dornish princess, but not getting killed. And he steals dragons. So this is obviously a Nissa Nissa thing. The kiss is the Moon Maiden. The chest of golden dragons is the meteor shower. You know, he's like the comet kissing the moon there. So just a quick little mythical astronomy parable I wanted to throw in, just so you can see that mythical astronomy is everywhere. And George always takes a minute to put in a meteor shower symbol when he can. Also, the hand of the white bull might be one of those moon fist symbols as well. So Makoro makes his fist into a moon symbol. We've talked in the last few streams about the fist symbolism. So shooting an arrow through the hand is probably just the comet through the moon there as well. So then going on further, and I see a couple of PayPals coming in. I'll get those in a minute. I'll finish this little reading here. Gren was tending the fire pit south of the compound gate, stripped to the waist as he split logs. Sexy Gren. His face was red with exertion, the sweat streaming off his skin. But he grinned as Sam came chuffing up. The others get your boots, Slayer? So remember, and this is right after Sam lost his boot in the mud. So remember, I said that Bannon, whose name means Slayer, got his foot cut off, and then he freezes to death to help Power and others sacrifice. So here we have Sam the Slayer losing a boot, and to help make the symbolism work, Gren says, oh, did the others take your boot? Which is suggesting that like his foot has gotten frozen or the others are taking his body. Sam, when he's walking away from the fist in the chapter just before this, he had the white greaves forming on his legs, which is like ice armor. And then he battled the others. So Taco Guy says there seems to be a duality between ice and fire, but there seems to be a duality between fire and shadow. Does ice have a second duality? Well, it's a tangled web that George Martin has woven. But think about it like this. There's shadows on both sides. There's icy shadows and there's fiery shadows. The others also are fiery. Their eyes burn like stars, right? They've got those cold burning blue stars. This is a clue that their life essence has a fiery nature to it. So this is Azor Ahai, the Dragon Lord, giving his fiery seed and soul to Night's Queen, but she has a cold womb. She's able to take that fiery dragon seed, flip it to ice, and birth cold others that have like a frozen dragon fire element to them. And that's why they have cold burning star eyes. Similarly, like I said, Lyanna and Rhaegar, a Night's Queen and King pair, their child is named Snow, but is a secret dragon. So he's got a cold nature, but he's secretly a dragon inside. And then in his dream, he's armored in black ice, but with a blade that burns red in his fist. So we see that ice and fire duality there as well. So there are shadows on both sides, and ice is just flipped over fire anyways in its current form. And there's light on both sides too. Yes, of course. Oh, happy birthday, Elisa. Geez, I didn't realize. Yay. Happy birthday, Elisa. Check out Elisa Patience's YouTube channel. It is just like her name, Elisa Patience. She's got really cool fairy tale Song of Ice and Fire analysis, which is getting better by the video. Yeah, he also likes the juxtaposition of opposites, Desmond. Good point. We've got nothing burns like the cold. Even the idea of a white shadow, like shadows are dark, but it's a white shadow. Frozen fire, whether it's taking the Azor Ahai's fiery nature and freezing it into the ice magic of the others, or dragon glass as being fire magma that's been cooled and hardened and frozen into shape. So yeah, he loves those dichotomies. It's the black sun, summer snows, on and on and on. That's the jam, dude. I'm coming up on a second 420 break here. I knew this was going to be a good long stream. It's a lot of content here. So let me keep reading. So Gren is tending the fire pit, and he says, "The others get your boots, Slayer." And Sam has just been griping about it. Everyone calls him Slayer. So he says, "Him too? It was the mud. Please don't call me that." "Why not?" Gren sounded puzzled. "It's a good name, and you came by it fairly." Pip always teased Gren about being thick as a castle wall, so Sam explained patiently. "It's just a different way of calling me a coward," he said, standing on his left leg and wriggling back into his muddy boot. "They're mocking me the same way they mock Bedwick by calling him giant." "He's not a giant, though," said Gren, "and Paul was never small. But you did slay the other, so it's not the same." So Bedwick is actually an important person here. Bedwick is a symbolic child of the forest. His name, Bedwick, implies a bed that is a wick, like being lit on fire. Think of a candle wick. He is a small person who's called giant. And he climbs a tree like a squirrel in A Dance with Dragons. So that implies him as a child of the forest, one of the squirrel people. And then he sleeps in a dead oak tree and asks Jon Snow how he likes his castle. So he's a child-sized man who makes his castle or his bed in a tree. But Bedwick implies that the tree gets lit on fire. So that's Bedwick. Kind of pull up this quote. Dead tree. Oh, it's actually in Clash of Kings. Out under the trees, some rangers had found enough duff and dry wood to start a fire beneath a slanting ridge of slate. Others had raised tents or made rude shelters by stretching their cloaks over low branches. Giant had crammed himself inside the hollow of a dead oak. "How'd you like my castle, Lord Snow?" So this is actually outside of Craster's keep. So Giant, who's actually child size, has crammed himself into a castle, and his name is Bedwick. So yes, weirwoods are symbolically trees on fire. Exactly, Harangan. That's what I was sort of implying there. Yes, their red leaves look like a blaze of flame, so they look like a burning person. And children of the forest, of course, the dead ones, live inside weirwood trees, and the living ones live in caves under weirwood trees. So let's see here. Going along. Oh, this Kindle app is so slow. Sorry, guys. So he had told them all about the dragon glass. Some of them didn't believe him. He knew. Dirk had shown Sam his dirk and said, "I got iron. What do I want with glass?" Black Bernard and the three Garths made it plain that they doubted his whole story. And Raleigh of Sisterton came right out and said, "More like you stabbed some rustling bushes, and it turned out to be Small Paul taking a shit. So you came up with a lie." So here we see that the other is compared to some rustling bushes because the others they come from the trees. So they are kind of like rustling bushes. And Small Paul got whited, of course. And it says, "But Dywin listened, and Dolores said, and they made Sam and Gren tell the Lord Commander." Mormont frowned all through the tale and asked pointed questions, but he was too cautious a man to shun any possible advantage. He asked Sam for all the dragon glass in his pack, though that was little enough. Whenever Sam thought of the cache John had found buried... One second. beneath the fist had made him want to cry. There had been dagger blades and spearheads and 200 or 300 arrowheads. Jon made daggers for himself, Sam, and the Lord Commander, and he'd given Sam a spearhead, an old broken horn, and some arrowheads. Gren had taken a handful of arrowheads as well, but that was all. So now all they had was Mormont's dagger and the one Sam had given Gren, plus 19 arrows. So there's 19 again, 19 castles on the wall, 19 Craster wives, 19 dragon glass arrowheads, and a tall hardwood spear with a black dragon glass head. A dragon head on a spear. So that's basically a dragon tree symbol. The centuries passed the spear along from watch to watch, while Mormont had divided the arrows among his best bowmen. But even if they made every shaft tell, they'd soon be down to fire arrows like the rest. Let's see. Instead of 300 brothers drawn up in disciplined ranks to meet them, as there was at the Fist, the Whites would find 41 ragged survivors, 9 too badly hurt to fight. 44 had come straggling into Craster's out of the storm, out of the 60-odd who'd cut their way free of the Fist. But 3 of those had died, and Bannon would soon make 4. So 44 survivors is interesting because there are 44 Naga's ribs, which are Weirwoods. Or Weirwood, cut Weirwood trees turned into the ribbing of a boat. So 41 ribs, 41 survivors. Again, I'm not sure what it means. I just want to point it out. For you fans of numerology. Not even numerology, really, just number symbolism. Do you think the Whites are gone? Sam asked Gren. Why don't they come finish us? They only come when it's cold. Yes, said Sam, but is it the cold that brings the Whites or the Whites that bring the cold? Who cares? Gren's axe sent wood chips flying. They come together, that's what matters. Hey, now that we know the dragon glass kills them, maybe they won't come at all. Maybe they're frightened of us now. Sam wished he could believe that, but it seemed that when you were dead, fear had no more meaning than pain or love or duty. And here's the thing. If there's only 12 others and they're sustaining their life force with these baby sacrifices, they actually would be very cautious because they can die pretty easily. Really. Like if it was just 12 White Walkers versus the Night's Watch, they wouldn't have a chance. You could just kill them with dragon glass easily. It's the Whites that you can't fight. You can't fight the Whites unless you, and again, with tons of dragons maybe, but like if you go out and fight them, you might kill 5, but eventually you'll go down and then you'll just become a White. We saw that at the Battle of Winterfell in the TV show. Like you can't fight an army of Whites, and the bigger it gets, the more unstoppable it gets, the more people they're going to absorb. So the style of the others, the tactics of the others is to hang back and send the Whites to do their bidding. There probably is only a core group of others, either 7 or 12. And if they're easily killed and they're thousands of years old, then yeah, they actually would be kind of scared of the Watch and very cautious. So I just wanted to point that out. That's not a good joke, man. I know you sent that in with a super chat, so I'm not going to block you from my channel, but I am going to remove that comment. That's I appreciate the $5, but that's not in good taste, man. Yeah, don't make abortion jokes, please. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, where were we? There's only okay, right. So that's why I said 7 or 12, because the Kingsguard, there's only 7, and the Kingsguard are the biggest parallel to the others. But we've also got all those 13s with the last hero and the Night's Watch, or with the Night's King. The other thing is that Night's King, it was said to bind his brothers with strange sorceries. So if he's using sorcery to bind the Night's Watch brothers, well, A, that sounds like shadow binding, and B, it sounds like Night's Watch brothers are being turned into others or being used to make others or something. And that's exactly what's happening in this chapter. A Night's Watch brother is freezing to death. Night's Watch brother freezing to death at the same time the baby other is born. Okay, so This is why I keep saying there's a connection. Let's see here. Oh, and here's a good point. Sam's thinking to himself, the dragonglass dagger had melted the pale thing in the woods, true, but Gren was talking like it would do the same to the whites. We don't know that, he thought. We don't know anything, really. I wish Jon was here. He liked Gren, but he couldn't talk to him the same way. So this is a good point. Like, when Sam tries to kill the whited small paw with the dragonglass, it breaks on Paul's armor. So we actually don't know whether or not dragonglass kills whites. In the show, it does. In the books, people are assuming that it doesn't. But it actually might, because the one time we've seen it tried, it broke on the ringmail. So it didn't actually make contact with the skin. Should have got him in the neck. So, open question. Just wanted to point that out. Oh, it's 4:20 somewhere off the Pacific coast. 1 second, guys. It's a long stream, so bear with me. Let me give you some art. Give you some new White Walker art. How about my other favorite White Walker art from Lee Moyer? These are kind of alien-looking White Walkers, but they're awesome. And it gets this is the best mirror armor picture of any White Walker art. And again, Jian Li or Jian Li. Yeah, that is friggin' sick. And there's poor Waymar and his broken sword. 1 second. And we're back. There I am. Okay. So yeah, and obviously the 12+1 motif is very commonly associated with both Jesus and the 12 disciples and the Zodiac. I mentioned that earlier. It'd be the Zodiac plus the sun. So some people think that's, the 12 tribes of Judah. It's a question of how much that may be tied to that idea, but let's not go down there. It's a common number to use, but I do strongly suspect there's only a few others. And if you think about it like this, think about the 7 suits of armor of the Kingsguard as the others, and the people who become others as the babies that are being sacrificed to maintain the existence of the other's physical body. That's kind of like what it is, because there's 7 slots on the Kingsguard. There's always 7. And if someone dies, they just make a new one. They just take a new young man and they stuff him into the armor and chew up his life force. Jaime in particular was the one who was kind of stolen from his father. Jaime was the firstborn, and Ares kind of snatched him out from under Tywin's grasp and put him on the Kingsguard. So definitely think that the more examples we look at, the more I'm locking onto this idea that there's only a fixed amount of others. They're taking the babies to maintain their life force, not to make new ones. Yeah. So, okay. So then we're keeping up with this chapter. Sam is still outside, and Lord Commander Mormont walks up to him. Sam acts all scared like he always does, and Mormont taunts him by saying, "Did the others take your eyes?" Actually, I'm sorry, that wasn't for Sam. That was at the guards at the gate. when they asked, who goes there? And he's like, who the seven hells do you think goes there? Did the others take your eyes? But it's just more language about some of the Night's Watch brothers being turned into others. And you saw that line earlier where it said other brothers were doing this and that. So some of the Night's Watch brothers get frozen. And like I said, Bannon gets frozen. And we could probably look at the mutiny as a symbol of that division. So when the mutiny goes down, some of the Night's Watch brothers remain true. And they go back to the wall. And there's 13 of them, with Sam being the 13th. So that's your last hero crew. The mutineers, however, they should probably be seen as others, I guess. You know, they're not, they sort of switch sides there. So hard to say exactly, but some of the Night's Watch brothers are being turned into others, and some of them are being turned into Fire Whites, essentially, is what's happening. So Mormont walks up to Sam. He's talking to Sam, and he says, I've been thinking about this dragon glass of yours. It's not mine, Sam said. Jon Snow's dragon glass, then. If dragon glass daggers are what we need, why do we only have 2 of them? Every man on the wall should be armed with one the day he says his words. We never knew. We never knew. But we must have known once. The Night's Watch has forgotten its true purpose, Tarly. You don't build a wall 700 feet high to keep savages in skins from stealing women. The wall was made to guard the realms of men, not against other men, which is all the wildlings are when you really come right down to it. Too many years, Tarly, too many hundreds and thousands of years. We lost sight of the true enemy, and now he's here, but we don't know how to fight him. Is dragon glass made by dragons, as the small folk like to say? The maesters think not, Sam stammered. The maesters say it comes from the fires of the earth. They call it obsidian. They can call it lemon pie for all I care. If it kills as you claim, I want more of it. Sam stumbled. John found more on the fist. Hundreds of arrowheads, spearheads as well. So you said. Small good it does us there. To reach the fist again, we need to be armed with the weapons we won't have until we reach the bloody fist. And there are still the wildlings to deal with. We need to find the dragon glass someplace else. Sam had almost forgotten about the wildlings. So much had happened since. The children of the forest used dragon glass blades, he said. They'd know where to find obsidian. It's like Bran. The children of the forest will help him. Talking about the last hero. Or Benjen, actually. The children of the forest are all dead, said Mormont. The first men killed half of them with bronze blades, and the Andals finished the job with iron. Why a glass dagger should... The old bear broke off as Craster emerged from between the deer-head flaps of his door. The wildling smiled, revealing a mouth of brown, rotten teeth. I have a son. Son? Called Mormont's raven. Son? 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 So there you go. Then a minute passes. They talk. Sam then... Craster complains about... Winter's coming on, and now the girls stuck me with another squalling mouth to feed. Sam says, actually it says, we could take him, someone squeaked. This is from Sam's POV. So George has disembodied Sam from his own voice. It's kind of funny. Craster's head turned, his eyes narrows. He spat on Sam's foot. What did you say, Slayer? Sam opened and closed his mouth. I only meant if you didn't want him, his mouth to feed, with winter coming on, we could take him and... My son. My blood. You think I'd give him to you crows? I only thought... You have no sons. You expose them. Gilly said as much. You leave them in the woods. That's why you only have wives here and daughters who grow up to be wives. So then Sam says, be quiet, or Mormont says, be quiet, go inside. You've said too much. Then he says, how great a fool are you? Even if Craster gave us the child, he'd be dead before we reach the wall. We need a newborn babe to care for near as much as we need more snow. So that's a great line because it compares the baby to Snow. And this, of course, a baby is going to be given to the others. And also to Jon Snow, who is a symbolic stolen other baby because his mother, Lyanna, is a symbolic Night's Queen figure. So there you go. And yes, Alicia Patience, Dragonglass is literally frozen fire because obsidian is cooled magma. So that's a literal description. So the babe we need the baby as much as we need more snow. That's pretty cool because the baby is going to be an other. So then let's see here. Then he tells, Mormont tells Sam to go see to Bannon. But when he reached the fire, it was only to find Giant pulling a fur cloak over Bannon's head. So Giant, the symbolic child of the forest. is overseeing the death of this freezing Night's Watchman. Let's say that. He said he was cold, the small man said. I hope he's gone someplace warm. I do. His wound, said Sam. Bugger his wound. Dirk prodded the corpse with his foot. His foot was hurt. I knew a man back in my village lost a foot. He lived to 9 and 40. The cold, said Sam. He was never warm. He was never fed, said Dirk. And then they go on, egging on Craster a bit. But the key line there was, oh, thank you, Maura Lee. Show of love and appreciation for all the fabulous content. Oh, thanks, dude. You're always so generous and supportive. What was the line I'm looking for? Well, yeah, I guess it's just Giant, the Child of the Forest character, pulling the cloak over the dying Night's Watchman. Because, again, this Night's Watchman is going to get resurrected in a minute. And I think the Children of the Forest have to do with that, because the Children of the Forest helped establish the first Night's Watch, which was a crew of zombies, I believe. So here's the important part. It says they burned the ranger's corpse at sunset in the fire that Gren had been feeding earlier that day. Tim Stone and Garth of Old Town. Is that Tim Stone or Tombstone? Tombstone and Garth of Old Town carried out the naked corpse and swung him twice between them before heaving him out to the flames. So think about this. Garth of Old Town. So Garth figures always represent green men, or we could just say they represent a tree. So we have a corpse being carried between a tombstone and a tree. It's kind of just a little picture of a grave. And so then they're taking the corpse and they're throwing him onto the fire. They swung him twice and then heaved him onto the flames. The surviving brothers divided up his clothes, his weapons, his armor, and everything else he owned. At Castle Black, the Night's Watch buried its dead with all due ceremony. They were not at Castle Black, though, and bones do not come back as whites. His name was Bannon, Lord Commander Mormont said as the flames took him. He was a brave man, a good ranger. He came to us from... Where did he come from? Down White Harbor way, someone called out. Mormont nodded. He came to us from White Harbor and never failed in his duty. He kept his vows as best he could, rode far, fought fiercely. We shall never see his like again. And now his watch is ended, the Black Brothers said, in solemn chant. And now his watch is ended, Mormont echoed. Ended, cried the Raven, ended. Sam was red-eyed and sick from the smoke. When he looked at the fire, he thought he saw Bannon sitting up, his hands coiling into fists as if to fight off the flames that were consuming him. But it was only for an instant before the swirling smoke hid all. The worst thing was the smell, though. It had been a foul, unpleasant smell. If it had been, he might have stood it. But his burning brother smelled so much like roast pork that Sam's mouth began to water. And that was so horrible that as soon as the bird squawked ended, he ran up behind the hall to throw up in the ditch. So here we have the Night's Watch Ranger, Bannon, whose name means slayer. He smells like pork. And Sam the Slayer is called Sir Piggy, just, again, to highlight the parallel here. And that line where it says the burning brother smelled so much like roast pork, the burning brother, like that's the idea. Hey. What? Where were we? So yeah, calling him the burning brother, like that's the same thing as John's dream when the only brothers up there are the burning scarecrows. So burning scarecrow brothers is what they're called. Here they're called a burning brother. That's the Fire White brothers. Hey, Darth Locus. Yeah, I know you don't have internet where you are, but thanks for popping in somehow. So then he was there on his knees in the mud when Dolorous Ed came up. Okay, so here comes all the green zombie watch clues. Digging for worms, Sam, or are you just sick? Sick, said Sam weakly, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. The smell. Never knew Bannon could smell so good. Ed's tone was as morose as ever. If I had half a mind, I had half a mind to carve a slice off him. If we had some applesauce, I might have done it. Pork's always best with applesauce, I find. Ed undid his laces and pulled out his cock. You best not die, Sam, or I fear I might succumb. There's bound to be more crackling on you than Bannon ever had, and I could never resist a bit of crackling. He sighed as his picks arced out, yellow and steaming. We ride at first light, did you hear? Sun or snow, the old bear tells me. Sun or snow? Sam glanced up anxiously at the sky. Snow, he squeaked. We ride, all of us? Well, no, some will need to walk. He shook himself. Dywin said, Dywin now, he says we need to learn to ride dead horses like the others do. He claims it would save on feed. How much could a dead horse eat? Ed laced himself up. Can't say I fancy the notion. Once they figure a way to work a dead horse, we'll be next. Likely I'll be the first, too. Ed, they'll say, dying's no excuse for lying down no more. So get on up and take this spear. You've got the watch tonight. Well, I shouldn't be so gloomy. Might be I'll die before they work it out. Might be we'll all die, and sooner than we'd like, Sam thought as he climbed awkwardly to his feet. So this is a famous quote if you know the Green Zombies theory. I mean, here, Dollarcet is basically saying it. He's saying straight up, you know, the Night's Watchman, maybe we should be, you know, undead and ride dead horses. But of course, Cold Hands is undead. He rides an elk, but, you know, he's riding and he's dead. So there you go. And then before that, detailed description of Ed pissing. I'm not sure what that's about, but yeah, just another comparison between Sam and Bannon, because they're talking about how Bannon smelled like pork. And then Ed is like, you best not die, Sam, or I might succumb. There's more crackling on you than Bannon ever had. So again, Sam being compared to Bannon, whose name means slayer, over and over again. The reason is because we're supposed to think of the last hero as this Night's Watchman who froze and then rose back to life through fire. And welcome, Fox Mulhoney, a new member. And if you're just joining late, you don't know what that is, check out the join button next to the subscribe button. Yeah, I was thinking, is it a pork? You know, that's Ed's pork sword. He's talking about pork and then pulls his cock out. I'm not sure what it's just, you know, but there it is. So the Night's Watch, they should ride. So right after we see a Night's Watch Ranger appear to rise in the pyre, then Dollarcet is talking about undead Night's Watchmen keeping the watch. So George is feeding us all the clues, not to make a feeding us cannibalism, pork crackling Sam joke, feeding us all the clues in the same place that we need. So we go back inside. Craster owned but one chair. He sat in it, clad in a sleeveless sheepskin jerkin. His thick arms were covered with white hair, and about one wrist was a twisted ring of gold. Lord Commander Mormont took the place at the top of the bench to his right, while the brothers crowded in knee to knee. A dozen remained outside to guard the gate and tend the fires. So there's a dozen fires. There's a dozen watchmen tending the fires. So again, just more last hero clues. And also the dragon glass arrowheads. There was originally 1 spear point and 13 knives that John made, or 12 knives and 1 spear. So there was another 12 plus 1, which we used to call the last hero math back in the day. All right, so keeping up here, it says, so then they turn on Craster. And when Craster gets mad, it says he looked fit to spit them all. So more comparison between the Night's Watch brothers and all the food that's being cooked. Because there's talking about horse meat. And Sam says he couldn't eat the horse meat because it reminded him of Bannon. And then Craster wants to spit them all. So he wants to cook all the Night's Watch brothers, essentially. And I think that is all the lines that I wanted to read. Then the one comes at the end where they talk about the sons. So, you know, take the girl and be quick about it. Where should I take her? Someplace warm, the 2 old women said at one. Gilly was crying. Me and the babe, please. I'll be your wife, like I was Craster's. Please, Sir Crow. He's just a boy, just like Nella said he'd be. If you don't take him, they will. They, said Sam, and the raven cocked its black head and echoed, they, the boy's brothers, said the old woman on the left, Craster's sons. The white cold's rising out there, Crow. I can feel it in my bones. These poor old bones don't lie. They'll be here soon, the sons. So that's cool because, of course, they have star eyes. So they literally are blue suns. Their eyes are blue suns, but they're also Craster's sons. And this is very similar to Melisandre saying, the king's fires burned so low, I couldn't draw off anymore to make another sun. And that sun is a shadow baby. So both the white shadows and the black shadows are referred to as suns. They are like twisted, dark sons of their fathers, of their kingly fathers. So again, so let's take a step back and take an overlook at this chapter. So a Night's Watchman is frozen to death. He's implied as one of the last heroes bunch or as the last hero because Sam is an obvious last hero figure. All of these Night's Watchmen are on the run from the others. Their numbers have been reduced. Their brothers have died. They are freezing cold. But then his death coincides with the birth of an other. And again, Night's King bound his brothers to his will with strange sorceries, as well as creating others with his children. So what I think is happening here is that there's a blood magic sacrifice. These original slain Night's Watch brothers were probably green men. That seems to be the symbolism. All the Night's Watchmen have green men. Check out the Green Zombies 1, 2, and 3 for that. But there's a lot of them with pretty obvious names. And so essentially, it seems like when Azor Ahai killed Nissa Nissa and sacrificed green men or sacrificed humans maybe in order to get in the Weirwood net, the others used the power of that blood magic in order to incorporate and come out of the Weirwood net. So Azor Ahai, look, I always say he forced the others out. It seems like something kind of unintentional, like he's invading the Weirwood net to grab power, and the others being kicked out are kind of like a side effect. But maybe it was that Azor Ahai was trying to create the others, and that was the intent of the whole thing. That could kind of square with Azor Ahai killing all these people, and then calling the tree spirits out of the Weirwoods, using the sacrifice of all the people he just killed, and creating these others. But then it seems like the corpses are resurrected as the Night's Watch. So you have the Night's Watch corpses now have a tie to the others because the sacrifice of their death was used to make the others in some sense. That is what I am that is what I'm seeing in this chapter. So fire away in the comments and let me know what you think. But that is what I'm thinking about. Let me bounce back over. I got some PayPals that came in. Feminudis says there's an undertone of Blue Lives Matter, adding subtext to Craster's resentment of Sam paired with the crackling pork. What now? I'm sorry, that one went over my head, Feminudist. I'm so sorry, but I just not sure what that meant. So, yeah, that one's just I must be too clearly laughing at that one. I must be too stoned or something. I'm sorry. I feel like that one just went over my head. Emily Finsterwall, let's see, says Catelyn in A Game of Thrones says she never liked the Godswood in Winterfell, and the only Weirwood in the south is on the Isle of Faces. Do you think Lady Stoneheart and the Weirwoods will have any significance in fighting the others? No. I think Lady Stoneheart is showing us a lot of interesting symbolism about Azor Ahai and Night's Queen and the Weirwoods, but I don't think she'll have any literal connection to the fight against the others. I think that she's not long for this world, quite frankly. I mean, she seems like she's got a limited shelf life, just as a character. Drew Thompson, what if Azor was infertile like Dany and used magic to have children like Dany? His evil was to ensure his dynasty similar to Maegor. I don't think so. I think Azor Ahai did have children, probably with Nissa Nissa before everyone died. And if nothing else, he had magical children with Night's Queen. That would be the whole point. Yeah, I don't know. And Dany's not infertile. She has a kid. Miriam S. Durst says she's infertile after the whole dragon hatching thing, which indicates she might be doing a fiery transformation on the inside, potentially. Maybe she's 1/10 of the way that Melisandre is towards being a fire other or something. Yeah, no, I think the book's still out on that, because we don't know what that blood flow is about at the end of A Dance with Dragons. It's kind of mysterious. So yeah, she has 3 kids. Exactly. 3 dragon kids. Darth Locust. Are the others the same from the original Long Night in the prologue? Yeah, I think so, Darth. That's the vibe I get, that they're 8,000 years old. That's what they feel like to me. And if you missed some of the earlier stream, Darth, and go back, I'd flesh that idea out a little further. I think they're taking all these baby sacrifices and using them to maintain their physical bodies as opposed to creating more. And yeah, now is the time to speak up if you've missed any super chats or anything. So, guys, there's a couple of chapters that complement this chapter that seem to be also telling us about other creation. One is the chapter where the wildlings attack Castle Black from the south, and a bunch of them climb up the wooden stair, and then the wooden stair gets set on fire, and then a bunch of them leap to their deaths in the snow. The wooden stair is suggested as a weirwood, and the people leaping out of it would be similar to the Dreamers Bran sees impaled on ice spires. And that does tails with the chapters in the Eyrie, where they have the moon door, where they make people fly, which is really falling to their death by pushing them out of a Weirwood door. So I'm going to do another stream that's probably going to be a chapter reading of the battle at Castle Black. Next, maybe like Wednesday or Friday. I might do a combined one where I pull ones from the Eyrie chapters and from that chapter, but I've got more thoughts about the creation of the others, and I've got more text to show you so you guys can rifle around with me and try to sort of figure out what's going on here. But basically, we have weirwood trees, people getting kicked out of weirwood trees that seem to turn into others. And in some cases, the weirwoods are burned in order to make that happen. So, yeah, stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And the next stream that I do will be continuing this entire train of thought while I continue to work on more Melisandre videos. Taco Guy, is there a duality between ice and invisibility in the books? Ice and invisibility. I'm not sure what you mean. Nobody's really invisible. The others blend into the trees because their armor is mirror-like, but I'm not sure about actual invisibility. If you want to clarify that in the chat, I'll try to look for your clarification. And the same thing for you, Feminist, if you're still here in the chat. Let me know what you meant so I can make sense of your comment. I'm sorry. It's probably my fault. Sometimes I just don't get it. And then another one from Ante's Tube, I think. And I'm not. Shoot. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It seems to require a pregnant fire female, Targaryen, to birth dragons. Does it take a pregnant ice female to make an other? Yeah, see, okay, so good question. We are told that Night's King probably was a Stark. I don't think he was. Night's King was Azor Ahai. His child, the stolen other baby, became a Stark. So in that way, he's kind of connected to the Stark bloodline, but he's not really a Stark, like wasn't a Lord of Winterfell that went and became Night's King. I think it was Azor Ahai. However, Night's Queen, I think, was a Stark, not only because Lyanna is a Stark, but because all the other Night's Queen characters have ties to the Starks. So Jane Poole poses as Arya and gets a ton of Corpse Queen icy symbolism, but she's an honorary Stark because she's posing as Arya. Val almost gets Jon could have chosen to been renamed Jon Stark, Lord of Winterfell, and part of that package was Val would have become the Lady of Winterfell and married him, so she would have become an honorary Stark. So you go on, and it seems like the Night's Queen characters are Starks, just like all the Night's King characters are dragons or Azor Ahai people. So I think that is what we're looking at here, is that the first Ice Priestess, like I said, she may have been part Child of the Forest woman. She may have, if she was an ancient Stark, then she probably would have had skin changer blood anyways. So something like that for original Night's Queen. And that was probably necessary, yes, to make others. Like Melisandre, she can only make shadow babies because she's used all this fire magic. Dany can hatch the dragons because she's the blood of the dragon. And she used seemingly some fire magic. So yes, that's all right on the money. Good question. Yeah, Jaime's journey in the Riverlands. That is a chapter. There's a couple chapters that I've got in mind for read-alongs. The first one where they're sailing down the river and Brienne climbs the cliff and then shoves the boulder down on the other boat. And of course, the one where Brienne and Jaime fight in the river. So if you're a patron, you can find an old Patreon post from me breaking down that entire chapter where they fight in the river as a We Should Start Back chapter. So that's one of the patron only posts that I've done, which I haven't done very many of, but that one is up there. So Parker, I think you're a patron, aren't you? If you are, make sure you've checked out that that We Should Start Back with Jaime and Brienne. Okay, cool. So, oh, and then one from Melinda. Shadow Demon, rather. Who was Craster's first wife? Mother of his first daughter wife. Do we have enough info to know? Does it matter? We don't have any information on that. Yeah, none whatsoever. We know that Craster comes from White Tree. And thank you, Akram Piel, with the super chat. White Tree. So White Tree is a place where we see human sacrifice to Weirwoods. We see a remnant of it. We see the bones of a child inside the mouth cavity of the Weirwood, and it's fire blackened. So they've got some specific Weirwood sacrifice rituals at White Tree that we haven't seen anywhere else. So the fact that Craster's wife comes from White Tree, Craster may have learned about this sacrificing to the others business from her and from people at White Tree. The White Tree Weirwood is also very significant as far as the descriptions of it. George uses it pretty heavily to imply some stuff. So it's monstrously big as well. So that makes sense. It's just another way of implying Craster's wives as Weirwood women. Oh, one other loose thought I want to address. Melisandre, as I've pointed out in the Weirwood Goddess series, she is a Weirwood symbol herself. She has white skin and red eyes and lips, just like the weirwood tree. She has red hair, just like the weirwood tree has a red canopy of leaves. The weirwood tree looks to be on fire. Melisandre looks to be on fire. Melisandre's eyes burn just like Ghost's eyes. They both look like weirwood trees. And so even though Melisandre actually goes around burning weirwood trees, she actually resembles one. And that's because Nissa Nissa is parallel to the moon and parallel to the weirwood tree. These are all things that Azor Ahai invades. Azor Ahai's celestial symbol is the comet, and it invades the moon, which is parallel to the weirwood. Azor Ahai invades Nissa Nissa by killing her with Lightbringer or by impregnating her, and then he invades the weirwood net by sending his spirit into the tree. So all of those things look, you could look at the weirwood tree as an exploding moon symbol. It's white with a face like a moon face, and then it's blood and surrounded by blood and fire. That's what Melisandre looks like. So when we see Stannis giving his seed and soul to Melisandre, and then the shadow babies coming out of Melisandre's womb, that's actually just like white shadow others coming out of a frozen weirwood tree. And if you watch that Weirwalkers video, you will see that the frozen weirwood tree that Varamir Sixskins encounters is described in just that way, with frozen fingers of frost creeping up the branch of the weirwood right before the army of the dead walks by, as the weirwood freezes over and is called a pale shadow armored in ice, just like the weirwoods are pale shadows, or just like the White Walkers are pale shadows wearing ice armor. So we've got an iced over weirwood tree, the army of the dead appears, and there's fingers of frost climbing out of the weirwood tree. So it's just like the shadow baby climbing out of Melisandre's womb with its black fingers reaching out and grabbing onto her legs and pulling itself out. It's exactly the same image. So I just wanted to point that out. Melisandre being a weirwood symbol is another clue about the others coming from the weirwoods. So yeah, Amelia, I got your other remark, your other PayPal here, but I'm still not sure what you're getting at. So maybe just clarify after the stream. You're on a train of thought that I'm just not following. Apologies. Hey, Glenn, joining. Thank you, Glenn. I'm not mad. I'm just confused. Sorry. And okay, so last call for questions, guys. We're almost to 3 hours here. This has been an epic stream. Thanks for helping me workshop all this stuff. I think we've made some progress. I'm definitely locking on the idea that there's only a few others and that they're taking the babies to sustain themselves. Just like the 7 suits of armor, the 7 positions of the Kingsguard are chewing up many children to maintain their presence. So, yeah. Feel pretty good about that. Also, just going back to the moon door real quick, we've got these people being thrown out of the moon door. The Eyrie itself is an ice temple, and there's 2 weirwood thrones in the middle of it. So that just tells you there's weirwood power at the heart of the others' power, and that the others are made by, again, getting pushed out of a weirwood door. I mean, it's literally just getting kicked out of the weirwood. It's really straightforward. Varys Egan plunges out the moon door. He's dressed like another as well. Or maybe that's only in the show. In any case. So you think it's 19 others, Harangan? There's 19 Craster wives. There's 19 castles on the wall. There was 19 arrowheads left. So 19 others. I think it's either 7 or 9. And there's also 79 sentinels. They are symbolic others. They've been planted in the wall and frozen. They're holding spears, so they're kind of like tree people that are frozen. Yeah. So, of course, the others are also called watchers, just as the Night's Watch keep watch, and they're the watchers on the wall. The prologue labels the others watchers twice, and George is trying to evoke the Nephilim watchers and the 7 seals and all that fucking weird extra biblical apocrypha stuff, which is actually really cool. Yeah, Vardis Egan is crushed by a statue in the books. Yeah, and this statue is like a Night's Queen symbol, an ice moon symbol. So yeah, I should go back and read that whole engagement. I will. I'll do that. Why would there be so few others? Because they are immortal and they're maintaining their existence by collecting all these babies and feeding off of their mana, kind of like the Undying. If you go back and rewatch earlier in the stream, I talked about how the Undying are maintaining their life, not just by drinking Shade of the Evening, but by sucking off the life force of people like Daenerys, which is what they were trying to do to her. 79 is 6 13s and 1. I'm not sure. No. So there you go. Leave your comments on the way out, folks. Please, if I didn't get to any of your comments in the chat, leave them there and I will get to them. Especially if you subscribe. Subscribers will get, of course, priority response, but I respond to a lot of my comments anyways. So yeah, let me know how many others you think there are. Let me know what you think about the other creation process. Anything that I might be missing. How does it work? What's the connection between the Night's Watch and the others, etc. So thank you, friends. Let me go ahead and wrap this up. Oh yes, we created a Facebook group. Thank you, Minty. So that is the link there. You can grab it. All you have to do is search for Myth Fam, Mythical Astronomy Myth Fam in the Facebook groups, and you will find it. Or you can contact me on any of my social medias. I'm at the Dragon LML on Twitter, and I'm David Lightbringer on Instagram. So there you go. All right, guys. Have a great Sunday. Thanks for coming to this 3-hour stream. It's 311 watching right now, so make sure you click the like button before you leave and leave me a comment on your way out. And like I said, I'll see you with more of this talk next week. Going to talk about the chapters in the Eyrie and the burning of the stair at the wall. So we'll plunge ever deeper into this topic. See you later, guys. Love you all. And thanks for all the PayPal, super chats, and memberships. Sorry, Cleo's tail's blocking the end broadcast button.